I forced a brilliant smile and waited for the verdict from my father, Count Kurt. My real name was Qin Hao, from Blue Star, Huaxia, and I'd been in this world all of 3 days. The good news, I was a count's offspring. The bad news, thoroughly unwelcome. Field, you've come of age, like a mature lion. It's time you went out and built your own enterprise. The richly dressed middle-aged man's mouth was stuffed with rousing words, but the old count was listless and haggard, his speech sounding like a joke. To everyone present it was a farce. The count paused, his attention wandering, and when he came to he'd actually forgotten where he'd left off. The original Field had been an extremely kind man. He gave the Battle Chi Awakening potion to his younger brother, gave his spot at the Mage Academy to his younger sister, and treated even the servants well. By rights, such a good man should be respected. Pity, he was a noble, and from a noble's view the original was a weak, useless waste. The plump, gorgeous woman beside the count was my stepmother. She lifted her teacup for a sip, slid her phoenix eyes at me, lifted her chin haughtily, almost pointing it at me. The vast Nightfall barony in the Northlands will be your barony. Plenty of room to show your stuff. So even though the original groveled to please everyone, he couldn't escape exile. A wave of dizziness hit me. The original had been bullied by everyone and died of illness, leaving me to inherit this mess. I bit down on my lip to steady myself, then sneered. The original really was a fool, thinking he could survive among nobles on kindness alone. My stepmother glanced at me carelessly, looking down her nose. Got a problem with that? Huh. I pressed down the stifled rage in my chest, put away the smile, my tone flat. As you wish, father. This good-for-nothing father had long since been under my stepmother's thumb, doing whatever the wife said. Puffed idiot. Some relative or other laughed aloud, lacing it with a sour insult. The North was home to 2 great races, humans and beastmen, bloody, violent, savage. 10 years ago, the Holy Griffin Empire used corruption smog to slaughter an army of 300,000 beastmen, and now that place, the 300,000 beastmen, along with every human and animal in the North, had all become corrupted creatures, lurking forever in the death fog, the very byword for hell on earth. The royal house had organized 3 reclamation campaigns, each ending in total annihilation. The territories of the North, large and small, were land in name only. Even a dog wouldn't go there. It was a cursed land. Not even runaway serfs or criminals fled in that direction. It's fine. I still have a cheat. I consoled myself silently, and at a flick of thought a transparent map popped up, marked with a single slowly moving green dot. Go and prepare. The count said wearily, face ashen. My stepmother helped him up and headed for the bedroom. I pursed my lips. My brothers and sisters all got rich fiefs, and this old geezer thinks 2 lukewarm sentences will send me off? I spoke at once. Father, opening up Nightfall won't be easy. I need your support. Greed is no virtue in a noble Field. You've received quite enough. The count answered without hesitation, the family members casting scornful looks too. Going out there with black hair and black eyes, a disgrace to House Ross. Just a mongrel. Black hair, black eyes. After the Eastern nomad invasions and the fall of the old kingdom of the Inland Sea, these had long since ceased to mark the old nobility. Fury rose in my eyes. The original's birth was plainly the count's own sin. My mother was a castle maid, from the farther east, sold into the castle as a slave by nomad merchants, and the original came of one of the count's drunken nights. So why take it out on me? Low birth, no maternal clan, and inheriting some of my mother's looks. That was the other big reason I was shut out. 500 gold coins, and you may take a personal servant. I treat each of my children equally. The count dropped the line and was hurried back to the bedroom on my stepmother's arm. I sulked. 500 gold sounded like a lot, but poured into a territory, it was a toothpick stirring a giant vat, just for show. Still, better than nothing. Hey Field, Nightfall's a great place. No sun all year, pitch black and reeking, a perfect match for those demon eyes of yours. My half-brother sidled up grinning, laying it on thick. My fief isn't half so great. Poor Fulon City, famous only for beer and goats. The rage in my chest flared up. A lousy fief is one thing. I'm a transmigrator. I'll find a way. But mocking my looks outright made me want to dig up his ancestors. What's more, This kid had battle chi at all only because, back when his talent was poor and he was crying in a corner being laughed at, the original was the one who reached out a hand. Get lost. I gave him no kindness. He didn't care, leaning to my ear with a deeply unpleasant smile. Remember that little flax-haired girl? My eyes narrowed, a smiling face surfacing in my mind. She was the girl the original loved, whose corpse was later found in the back alley of a tavern, after which the original, sick with grief and rage, fell ill and died, and I transmigrated in. I did it. My brother licked the corner of his mouth, not a trace of humanity in his tone. My pupils shrank violently. A jolt of shock seized my heart. A brother who'd just come of age, capable of such bestial cruelty. The girl was a stranger to me, a transmigrator, but the disgust at someone trampling a life so casually hit me like never before. His face twisted, voice oily and vile. Once you go to that corrupted land, you'll never come back. If I don't enjoy your expression now, I'll regret it. My nails dug deep into my palm, fist cracking, and I asked coldly, I never crossed you. Why target me? Because of that damned battle chi potion you handed me as charity. I took it and couldn't even break through to first-rank knight. Behind my back, everyone calls me trash, and it's all your fault. You definitely poisoned it. Your talent's just garbage. I was sick to my stomach. Heh. Anyway, if you ever get a lover, I'll snatch her and torture her too. Oh, pity you won't have a future, you bastard. He pulled a smug face. You piece of human filth. I hit the limit of my fury. So it was true. The original was a sucker, doing good and only making enemies. Those who build bridges and mend roads die unburied, while those who murder and burn wear golden belts. Mongrels with no sense of decency only learn through fists. You're asking to die. A vicious knee strike sent him flying. I erupted, stamped him in the face, blood everywhere. Everyone was stunned. The ever-meek field, this savage. I hate being threatened most of all. Before the guards could react, I grabbed his golden curls to smash his head into the floor. Suddenly, my neck cinched tight. I was seized and hoisted high, suffocation driving death right to my face. What are you doing to my lord? The one gripping me was a beautiful woman with long wine-red hair. The most striking thing, the mysterious rune on her forehead. A god's chosen? I was shocked. The keystone of this world's extraordinary power was the chosen. They stood above battle chi and magic, wielding all sorts of unfathomable powers. Combat, support, construction. The damnable part. Only women could become chosen. Perhaps the gods of this world were all female. As I was nearly blacking out, the world spun, my spine screaming with pain. I'd been hurled into a wall. Didn't dare go for the kill after all. Arg, I'll kill you. My brother coughed and drew his waist blade. I wiped the blood from my lips. There was no way I could beat a chosen. Wasting no more time, I bore the agony, turned, and walked off fast. I hadn't expected the brother, not even installed in his fief yet, to already have a chosen protecting him, which made me feel the danger all the more. With no capital to sit and wait for death, and having offended him, I had to act immediately, or I might be carried off tonight to be tortured. Once I level up, I'll come back and wreck every one of you. My eyes lowered, my anger undisguised. 9 years of compulsory education breeds no cowards. So what is this annoying as a fly greened up? I studied that map only I could see. It appeared the day I transmigrated. Maybe it's tied to the Lord talent. Where there's Een, there's Yang, and the counterpart to the chosen was the Lord. Sign a contract with the chosen and the two feed off each other, growing together. Lords had unique talents, usually tied to their contracted chosen and their own territory. And there were rare innate talents. No territory, no contract, yet a talent appearing out of nowhere. The original naturally had none, but I, the transmigrator, happened to have this rare gift. Of course, I couldn't rule out floaters in my eye. I'd have to see for myself, and luckily it wasn't far, right here in Golden Eagle City. I packed light. The steward had already drawn the gold coins and waited with the servant, faces full of despair. At hearing we were bound for the cursed land, the steward could have hanged himself, but suicide bars you from heaven, so he steeled himself to go and die. Let's move. I was preoccupied, in no mood to comfort him. The moment I opened the manor gate, a band of mismatched armored cavalry came into view, and out of them stepped a man in a red cloak, a long lance over his shoulder. Honored Baron Field, I am the cavalry captain Connor, your escort. I trust we'll have a pleasant journey. Then I'll be in your hands, Connor. I answered politely, but alarm bells rang inside. Escort, they called it. Yet this lot had thuggish faces and gave no sense of safety. I half suspected I'd be killed and robbed the moment I left. Though that was unlikely, registered knights generally don't ruin their futures murdering nobles. I shrugged. Maybe they're here to march me to the execution ground. First, a trip to Golden Eagle City. Opening up nightfall will take a lot of supplies. I meant to see exactly what that green dot was. Golden Eagle City was the second largest city in House Ross's domain, with unrivaled commercial power granted to my second elder sister. Its annual tax revenue was said to be 600,000 gold, against my pitiful 500, a glaring contrast. The carriage rode all morning before reaching this great city spanning 40 square kilometers. Unlike the modern world, the soldiers at the gate lounged against the wall telling dirty jokes, cursing and shaking down the common folk entering, charging steep entry fees, until they saw the cavalry clearing the road ahead of me, and one officer shot up from his chair. Move those peasants' junk out of the way. A lord's coming through. Open your eyes. The lazy soldiers instantly straightened, cursing and driving the commoner merchants aside, then bowing to me obsequiously. Unfavored as I was still a noble, and ordinary people dared not offend me. I slowed my horse and homed in on the green dot's bearing. Guided by it, I came to the slave market in the city's north. Oh, this damned, nose-stinging reek. Connor frowned and fanned the air, but the stench rushed up the nostrils all the same. The slave market stink tortured my nose raw. Those stingy merchants were vampires, unwilling to spend a single copper to let a slave bathe. 5 or 6 slaves curled in a single cramped cage, eating, drinking, and relieving themselves all inside it. No privacy, no dignity. This was a brutal slaveholding world, where to nobles a slave was worth even less than a household hawk or hound, killable on a whim. In my well-cut black robe, fine steel long sword at my hip, the slavers' eyes lit up at the sight. They loved dealing with nobles. Strong spending power and shocking turnover, returning customers within days. My lord buying slaves? Essential for a farmstead, all diligent hands. Rare elf slave, 1,000 gold. New shop opening, my lord, come see. I scanned a row of iron cages. The slaves inside had not even the basic light in their eyes. Matted, filthy, whip-scarred, flinching and bowing the instant they met my gaze. How much? The green that was among these slaves. I searched and asked prices as I went. My lord, the price varies hugely by race. A merchant with a pinched, weaselly face rubbed his hands. Goblins and halflings are 10 silver, demi-humans 20, beastmen 60. He gestured slyly toward an elf in a large cage indoors, priced at 1,000. Exquisitely beautiful, yet her eyes were as hollow as an idiot's. This one's been broken, but still in demand. I mean to send her to the auction house, where she'll fetch more than 1,000 gold. Care to consider? Not interested in her. The green dot wasn't her, and I didn't have that kind of money. I shook my head at once. How much for human slaves? 40 silver for men, 25 for women, all laborers. A chill ran through me. The nobles of this world were no elegant, dignified figures from a TV drama, but feudal, brutal villains. The darkness of this place exceeded my imagination. As we chatted, I found the green dot's location. My eyes landed on an iron cage in the corner, the green dot hovering over it like a game marker. A demi-human, a white wolf demi-human, red pupils, wolf-like ears and tail. She wore rough hemp, lying motionless in the cold, damp cage, only her eyes flicking now and then to the keys at the merchant's waist. A rare grassland species. Our slave-catching team paid dearly to break their stronghold. Those savages have fierce fighting spirit. The merchant said smugly, "This white wolf demi-human's headstrong. Best bring a servant to help handle her once you buy her, or she might bite when you're not careful." A beast-eared girl? As a veteran Blue Star shut-in, I had zero resistance to a red-eyed, beast-eared girl. I carefully reached out to pat her head. Growling, a threatening low growl came from her throat, a dangerous light in those crimson eyes, and Connor already had a hand on his hilt. Lord Field had best not touch it. I'd rather nothing went wrong before we reach nightfall. No need to be so tense. She's rather cute. That said, I'm a man who takes advice, and withdrew my hand at once. I read bravado and dejection in her eyes, cute and pitiable both. I straightened my collar. How much? 3 gold coins. The merchant read my intent and jacked the price with his eyes shut. 1 gold equals 100 silver, 1 silver 100 copper. I set my face and narrowed my eyes. You just said demi-humans were only 20 silver. Toying with a noble? Oh, she's special, pretty, freshly caught, very clean, meant for the auction house. If she weren't a demi-human, I wouldn't sell her for 300 gold. 50 silver. Don't test my patience. I crossed my arms and dangled the bait. I'm about to take up my territory, and she's far from the only slave I'll be buying. One deal, or countless deals, you do the math. HSSS. That scratched right where the merchant itched. He wrestled with it. Befriending a noble with a real territory was absolutely worth it, so he gritted his teeth. That depends on how many you buy. The steward shot me a puzzled glance from the side. The old field would never haggle, only sympathize with a merchant's hard times. I picked carefully and bought 100 human slaves and 100 demi-human slaves, 120 of them men, plus that white wolf demi-human, 53 gold in all. My lord, here is the slave's soul contract, all verified by a god's chosen. The merchant handed over a parchment densely written with names. Any who defy your will shall be burned to ash by divine fire. I'll treat them well. I waved a hand and took the leads. Bound for the cursed land anyway. These people were my capital for opening up the territory. I'd wanted to buy more, but my purse was thin. To survive in the death fog, you needed a fog-dispelling lamp just to breathe. A magic item the church sold exclusively. Expensive. Plus feeding over 200 people, no small sum. Did you get the loan? Seeing the steward cow come out of the Merchants Association, I hurried over, but one look at his face, sourer than a dead rat 3 days gone, and I knew. Apologies, my lord. However greedy a merchant, none will lend at the sound of your name. Cow spread his hands. The North is a byword for hell. Even the royal expedition was wiped out, and no one wants to throw money down the drain. That's odd. I only received the appointment today. How are the merchants so well informed? I'd meant to take a loan, die in the North, and you needn't repay. Live, and repayment's a small thing. Cow rolled his eyes. Because your second sister knew of your fief in advance and put out word to every merchant in the city. Anything you buy is priced 10 times over, with no convenience whatsoever. I wiped a cold sweat. Lucky I hadn't given my name buying slaves, or it wouldn't have been 50 silver. Damn, what a generous gift from my dear sister. Veins bulged on my forehead. Not one of them treated people as people. The most maddening part, the original had lived this long without a single copper in savings. A third donated to the family vault, 2/3 donated to the border fortress to buy weapons against corrupted creatures. Solidly the poorest noble alive. No loan. Fine. The loss is for short-sighted merchants. I was unbothered. Now to buy means of production. I spent 180 gold on pack horses, farm tools, food, and books. 17 pack horses, all old and frail. Horses were a vital means of production in the medieval period, strictly controlled by lords. Food packed as full as possible, by a modern person's reckoning enough for only half a month. But a slave could be kept alive on 1 black loaf a day. And 2 loaves cut with bark and sawdust would have them on their knees calling me daddy. So 35 days' worth was more than enough. I'll buy magic items in a border city. Those weaselly officers will sell them at a discount. Just like ancient feudal armies forever selling off their soldiers' gear and padding the rolls with phantom troops. I'd meant to recruit talent or mercenaries at a tavern, but at the mention of nightfall they refused flat. That hellhole, you might as well send us to die. I'd advise you to just flee to another country. I rubbed my brow and glanced at the white wolf demi-human curled in the hay of the cart. What exactly was so special about this girl? We found a coaching inn and rested a night. Early the next morning I called her over. What's your name? Did you rest well last night? I studied this 50 silver slave, and at her blank face, couldn't help finding it funny. Hey, Ashna. Her mouth worked for a while before she labored out the name. She hadn't spoken in a month. She'd waited in terror for fate to fall, never expecting a day of speaking normally again. After a careful washing by the maids, she was a different person. Her matted, crusted fur turned sleek, snow-white hair falling loose, paired with delicate features, quiet and graceful. Only her constantly twitching wolf ears and tail plainly betrayed her unease. Once she'd given her name, the green over her head vanished, replaced by a simple panel. Name, Ashna level, unawakened advancement path, wolf cavalry chosen status, malnourished, near collapse, please replenish nutrition. Holy crap, I couldn't hold it in, blurting out loud. The green was an unawakened god's chosen. I was so stunned I said nothing for a long while. If the map could mark a green, it would surely mark more than this one. Every September 1st was the nation's awakening day, when all women of age were tested. The odds of awakening as a chosen were vanishingly slim, but given their value, any cost of wealth or effort was worth it. I paced back and forth in excitement, threw a couple of punches. My ability had enormous potential, and this trip to Nightfall, I might actually establish a foothold. Seeing my strange behavior, Ashna thought I'd hit upon some cruel scheme to torment her, and her legs trembled. After being bought, she'd considered lashing out, willing to suffer the contract's backlash rather than die in humiliation. But the maids had drawn her a bath and dressed her in soft, comfortable clothes. Never in her life had she imagined someone helping her bathe. Maybe they mean to sacrifice me to a devil, she thought wildly. I'll strike back at the crucial moment. No need to fear. I'm not some psycho who kills for fun. I bought you all to open up my territory. I lowered my voice, gentle as I could, lounging in the chair to seem utterly non-threatening. By the way, do those clothes fit? They were altered from a common maid's uniform. This world's maid dress ran conservative, just clean and decent. They fit well. Ashna couldn't bear the torment of guessing, and said with a touch of mockery, as if she'd seen through me, "My lord, what do you want me to do?" The maids had said her job was to share my bed, but she figured it unlikely. Humans loathed demi-humans, repelled by these animal ears and tail. Help me open up my territory, of course, as I just said. I answered matter-of-factly, and seeing her disbelief could only press a hand to my forehead, helpless. Eat first, we'll talk over the meal. At the word eat, she instantly calmed, her belly burning with hunger. My situation was dire. Being loathed by a pack of brothers and sisters for my conduct was the least of it. The key was that the old count weakened by the day, and a vast fortune was about to be divided. Even unfavored, by imperial law, any direct bloodline holds inheritance rights, an otherworld version of the decree of grace, carving a great domain into small pieces so no one lord grows too strong. So my brothers itched for me to ascend to heaven on the spot, while hating and warring with one another too. Shortly after the dinner bell, two maids brought in sauced meat cutlets and honey bread. Ashna, you have? Huh, where'd she go? I weighed my words, then turned to find her gone. I'm here. She was crouched obediently on the floor in a corner. What are you doing? Sitting and waiting to eat, my lord. What did I do wrong? She tensed up again. I strode over, took her hand, and led her to the table. Sit in the chair. Now eat. She dared sit only on a third of the stool, staring at me a long while, and only after confirming I'd produced no whip did she ask softly, "Can I eat this?" Of course. Only then did the poor beast-eared girl lower her head and gingerly bite a cutlet. The spiced, sauced meat exploded in her mouth, taste buds that hadn't known meat in who knows how long dancing madly. This was the most wonderful thing in the world. She threw everything to the back of her mind, gulping down the cutlets, licking even the sauce clean, devouring 3 cutlets and 5 white loaves single-handedly until her belly was round and taut. I wore a kindly old father's smile. Eat, eat, and work hard for me later. Phew, I'd die happy right now. She licked the sauce from the corner of her mouth, her 2 wolf ears perking up spiritedly. No need for that. I want to cultivate you into a god's chosen. I laced my fingers behind the chair back. Of course I wasn't honest enough to tell her she was already an unawakened chosen. I used only the word cultivate. Then you'll be disappointed. The odds of becoming a chosen are vanishingly small, and I'm a demi-human. I've never heard of a human and a demi-human forming a contract. She answered weakly. Per the books, the more prosperous the city, the more likely a chosen. Yet even Golden Eagle City had produced only 3 in a century, and a demi-human chosen was simply unheard of. How will you know without trying? I believe I can. I chuckled lightly. If I failed, I'd most likely die in the cursed land anyway. All right, if there's meat in it. She licked her lips, still hungry for more. The next 10 days flew by on the road. To replenish her nutrition, I bought heaps of meat and medicinal tonics at every city we passed, and Ishna soon realized I wasn't joking. On top of that, I spent 150 gold on a fog-dispelling lamp, purification potions, and an awakening crystal. I'd done my homework, and these were essentials for opening up Nightfall. Soon we reached the last fortress on the road to the north, Baron Bull's Cashion Fortress, a stone castle built into the mountainside, holding back the north's corrupted creatures, magic beasts, and beastmen. Goddess of Winter, bless me. Let me become a god's chosen. Ashna huddled in the creaking cart, silently praying to the wolf demi-human's deity. These past days she often felt she was dreaming, riding a noble carriage, eating delicious cutlets, being cared for, sheer heaven. She even touched her forehead to check she hadn't gone feverish and lost her mind. The one thing she couldn't fathom was why I'd given her precious tonics to drink. She'd never heard of a chosen being drunk into existence. I really hope I'm a chosen, or won't the Baron be furious? She could only pray quietly. The steward cow sighed in despair. Never thought my last trip to Cashion Fortress would be like this. I ignored his sighing and prodded his shoulder with my riding crop from atop my horse. You used to come often? Cow rolled his eyes. Indeed, you were always donating your living expenses to the villagers here, or stuffing them into Baron Bull's little coffer. Oh well. My mouth twitched. I'd forgotten again that the original was a saint, and laughed it off awkwardly. At least Baron Bull will welcome us, and it'll be convenient to pass the fortress in future. Since the original had laid down so much goodwill, maybe I could draw some benefit from it later. Baron Bull and his son are famously… sorry, I spoke out of turn. Cow hurriedly shut his mouth, bad-mouthing one noble before another was asking for an early grave. I wanted to press, but noticed a cluster of red skull markers suddenly appear on the mini-map in my mind, moving fast toward me. HSS, could someone be coming to welcome us? That's what I said, but I'm no fool. Skulls were definitely no good thing, so I quickly sent the manservant to fetch Connor. With respect, the Baron is simply seeing ghosts. Hearing the manservant's slightly anxious words, Connor sneered. We're behind the walls of Cashion Fortress, the sturdiest link in the Empire's defense line. If there's danger even here, I'll eat all the dung my warhorse drops. In his mind, I was already filed under the last struggles of a desperate man. Tell your Baron that going to Nightfall is jointly supervised by law and family. You can't shrink back at the last minute. That's beneath a noble's quality. The manservant, browbeaten, came back to report deflated. I only said, "Oh," ordered the slaves to slow down, forcing the mounted Connor to ride to the front of the column. Coward. I really can't fathom how the Count sired such a spineless thing. Connor sneered under his breath, but soon his face turned very ugly indeed, because we ran into the locals' warm welcome. Roar, came a strange cry. Here already? I chuckled. Looks like someone's dinner tonight is dung. Amid the cries, I rode past the slaves blocking the road and saw pairs of gray-white eyeballs, corpse fiends in peasant garb charging at a dead run, a dozen-odd normal humans fleeing ahead of them. Even 100 meters off, the cold malice and rotting stench hit me full in the face. These rotting corpses were the North's handiwork. What the hell? We're not even in the North yet. How are there monsters? Connor spat, cursing his luck. Just when the assignment was nearly done, an accident, and worse, he'd just mocked me, which galled him more. He raised his lance, full of reluctance, but failing his duty would cut him off from the upper class. The 20 cavalry formed a line, spurred up the high ground to the right, and rode downhill to gather speed as they charged the corpse swarm. Better to rely on yourself than beg others. I was tense too, and after a hard look at the slavering corpses, shouted to the slaves behind me. Link the wagons. Any man with guts, take up a tool and fight beside me. I'll reward by performance. The slaves didn't budge, only cowering behind the carts, trembling or praying for a miracle. Don't count on those wastes. The steward, legs shaking like he had a motor in them, scared near to wetting himself, tugged my robe and pleaded in a quaver. My lord, Run for your life. I mean strategic retreat. No need to mind these dirt clods. Buy more once they die. I peeled his hand off and frowned. If this little bit scares you, you'd best not go to the north. You think I want to? The Count named me specifically. Cal could have died on the spot. Are there enemies? Ashna hopped down from the cart. These days of recovery had shed her sallow, scrawny look, and she actually resembled a noble lady now. My lord, I'll do my best to protect you. She raised her little fists, trembling as she planted herself before me, shaking like a kitten in a cold wind. No need for that. Watching her wolf ears flatten back with nerves, I could only laugh helplessly, but I was gladdened too. The meat and bread hadn't been wasted. Not like certain hateful people who ate my food and resented me for it. Help! The peasant out front, spotting a savior, came bawling and wailing, dragging the corpse swarm along with him. For glory! At the right distance, Connor's cavalry launched their charge, lances leveled at the swarm. Squelch! Squelch! A string of meaty impacts, 7 or 8 zombies skewered and flung up, purple foul blood spraying like it was free, the ground soaked sticky. That was just the appetizer. After the charge, the cavalry wheeled in place, chain flails and sabers swinging together, rotting corpses falling like cut wheat, some bowled over by war horses, rib cages stomped open by iron hooves, a slaughter. The few corpses that slipped through slammed into my wagon line, and with no grasp of tactics flailed and bit blindly at the wheels. Mama! The slaves shoved one another, trapped in the convoy, crushed together unable to flee, and the steward's faucet failed. He wet his trousers. Damn, what a pack of cowards. Scared as I wasn't that bad. Probably down to my fondness back home for apocalypse novels and zombie films. Looks like I'll have to do it myself. Not a single soldier under my command. The corpses were nimble and fearless of death, but their idiot movements weren't unbeatable. While one shoved at a cart, I drove my longsword into its neck and yanked hard, and the head flopped limp to its chest like a lightning-struck branch. Blah! The rotting stench rushed up my nose, nearly making me retch. Yet deep down, I felt a faint thrill. It was as if this body's soul carried warlike blood. Killing rotters isn't so hard after all. My confidence surged, and I flicked the foul blood off the blade. Look out, Lord! Another half-bodied corpse crawled in during the gap to bite my ankle. At the crucial moment, Ashna jabbed a dung fork hard into its spine, pinning it to the ground dead. Phew, good work. I broke into a cold sweat and stumbled back several steps, heart pounding. I'd nearly been caught. Corpse venom could be cured by the church, but at brutal cost. Don't even dream of it under 100 gold. Once the palpitations passed, I ruffled Ashna's head. For saving my life, a gold coin. She lit up with delight, eyes glinting gold. Never in her life had she seen so much money. Really? It's only what I should do. These corpses weren't like horror film zombies. A weapon driven into the body could hurt them. More corpses surged up, clawing at the cart wall. But the slaves behind it, seeing the things couldn't break through the wheels, seeing even the Lord and that frail-looking girl daring to fight back, took up their tools too, more than a few of the men. I lifted my sword and kept killing, flowers of blood blooming, masses of corpses falling under the tools and my blade. Wah! A scream. One of Connor's cavalry, as he trod through the formation, was seized by a corpse in a village woman's shape, his cloak hauled back hard, his legs kicking as he toppled. Crack! The back of his head hit the ground, and he went still on the spot. Connor cursed. Damn, useless. What galled him more was that I, far from scared witless, was calmly commanding the slaves. Cut the head off every corpse and burn them in a pile. I'd crammed corruption lore the whole way. These corrupted humans, once dead, did terrible harm to their surroundings. Leave them be, and they'd soon spawn a new pollution source. I frowned at the unbroken gray fog in the distance. Running into this many zombies before we've even reached nightfall isn't a good omen. The family disliking me enough to exile me was one thing, but herding me into a corpse pit was too vicious. Thank you for your aid, my lord. A refugee who'd escaped crawled forward on his knees and kissed my boot, prostrate. May the god of war light your path. I scanned these refugees, ragged as beggars. Where are you from? Why are there so many corpses? Shouldn't the corrupted creatures be held back by Cashion fortress's walls? It's the death fog. The North's gray fog seeped through the fortress walls and shrouded our oak village. Overnight, most folk were corrupted into corpses in their sleep. Only we escaped. The villagers shook like a leaf. The gray fog, the death fog, was said to be the root of corruption. Laced into the air, breathed in by plants and animals, it swiftly killed the host and remade it into a corrupted monster. Only those with lord ability or chosen power were immune, and beyond that the church's atonement lamps could disperse it. Expensive. 50 gold bought me only 2, and that on a noble standing. Hearing this, I frowned. Where's your lord? Every border fortress should have a chosen stationed. The gray fog can't simply seep in. The Baron and his chosen went to investigate a heretic cult's traces. Only the Baron's son is in the castle. Come, let's go meet the master of this place. To reach nightfall, the local Baron had to let us through. Reaching Cashion Fortress, I was awed by the towering bastion. Unbroken stone walls and round towers built into the mountain. The ramparts wide enough to ride horses, studded with ballistae, catapults, oil cauldrons, and fire braziers. Even 100,000-strong army besieging it would only break its head bloody, the snapping griffin banners proclaiming the old empire's majesty. But the biggest problem was, where is everyone? The whole outer wall was bare, not a soul. Connor went pale too. Don't tell me the beastmen launched a surprise attack? If the fortress falls, the whole province is lost in an instant. Probably not, or it wouldn't be this quiet. Moving up a stretch, I saw torches burning atop the inner wall. Stay back, who are you? Someone called from the wall, heads thronging in the firelight, showing the castle was well manned. Why had they suddenly abandoned the vital outer works? I am Baron Field of House Ross, en route to take up nightfall. Open the gate and let us through. The officer hailing us looked troubled, hesitated, then called over a young man, Baron Bull's son. No, my father isn't back. No one's tricking this gate open. Leave, or we shoot. My mouth twitched. I guess the youth had been scared witless by the corpses. It's me, Field. I even donated money here, remember? I'm not your enemy. What? A few stinking coins. The whole empire has to ship money to the border. Who the hell are you that I'd remember you? Out-of-towner, come to make a spectacle of yourself in bull territory. Numb. So nobles really are mostly no good. I nearly ground my teeth to dust. The original's last act of charity gone down the drain. If I'd had soldiers, I'd have stormed the place. Instead, I held my temper. These villagers I rescued on the road, you. Damn you. You think my castle has food to spare? Who told you to save those stupid things? Take one step closer with them, and I shoot at once. I gaped. What kind of person is this? Damn. Thoroughly displeased. The steward cow shrank his neck. This was exactly what he'd hemmed and hawed over before. Baron Bull and his son were both no good. Wait, you're the Baron of Nightfall? Wonderful. Finally someone to buffer my fortress. I hope you survive a couple of days. But when the corpses are chasing you down, don't come bothering me. I won't open this gate. The man on the wall remembered me, but all he thought of was using me as a strategic buffer. Cal leaned in low. Baron Bull's only son, Richard Bull, has the nickname the Coward. Let's not waste our breath. Right? No point arguing with a fool. Veins bulging, I backed off slowly. So that's how everyone's going to play it. Then I won't be polite either. Open your own gate to Nightfall. It's perfectly safe over there. Richard finished and shrank back into the castle. Now get out of my sight. Out-of-towner. Backing off a stretch, I had everyone wait. Now I know why the corpses turned up here. I righted my sword. Thank goodness the beastmen are blocked by the gray fog too, and bound by the peace treaty, or the Empire's proudest defense line would be a joke. Then, honored lord, we'll stop troubling you. The villagers, embarrassed, shoved one another and pushed forward one man to bid farewell. We'll be off. Thank you. I was riding high on anger. Born in the modern world or not, I'm no one's doormat. My eyes lowered, like a man-eating wolf. Did I say you could go? Your lord abandoned you. Now you're masterless, and I've taken you in. Free labor, conveniently. No, my lord, spare us. We're free folk. The villagers were 1,000 times unwilling. By Richard's words, Nightfall was a cursed land you went to die in. Spare you? Fine, 5 gold redemption fee. I saved you, so it's my due. I drew my longsword. Either come to Nightfall with me, Or pay up, or I'll hack you into dog meat. Understood. Phew. So he really is a noble after all. Ashna, beside me, actually relaxed. My recent gentleness had unsettled her, like a dream. Now that I'd turned out the cold, gangsterish noble cruelty, she felt grounded. Like her, the villagers, threatened, settled right down and knelt to go to nightfall. Die going, die staying. So might as well try their luck. Cheap bones. I sheathed the sword and rubbed my face helplessly. Fists always persuade better than words. My lord, don't give up. Ashna crept up to comfort me. One look at her and I froze, staring until she wore a frightened expression before I snapped to and quickly smiled. It's nothing. I just spaced out. Pressing on, as we neared the fortress gate, I was startled by a great mass of skull markers on the mini-map. So this is Richard's perfectly safe gate? The damned fool took the donation and did nothing, and now meant to use the corpses to do me in. Charging carelessly, and I'd very likely be ambushed by corpses hidden inside. Annoyed as I was, a thought struck me, and I stroked my chin. Since he's holed up in the inner castle and abandoned the outer works, doesn't that mean I can make a killing? No one's watching, after all. I'm no Virgin Mary. With scum like this, there's no need for decency. Cow, gather everyone who dared take up a weapon against the corpses. If there aren't 30, make up the rest with the strong ones. Cow was timid but efficient, and soon assembled 30 slaves of various races. Before that, there's a dung-eater in the way. I glanced at Connor's ugly face and found a flimsy pretext. Valiant Sir Connor, this isn't my fief, but as a noble with martial virtue, I mean to help these farmers slay the corpses. Will you join me? Connor gaped. Are you sick? He'd lost a man to corpses already and was fretting over the death payment. And now this idiot baron wanted to help clear someone else's corruption wave? No thanks. I've delivered you to Nightfall's border. It's a single gate away, and I must return to report. He couldn't help laughing aloud. Sorry, but leading this rabble against corpses is worse than leading a pig. At least a pig could fill the corpses' bellies. Pity, I thought you might share the glory. I made a regretful face. And don't forget imperial law and family precept. Take up your post on time. Connor left the warning and galloped off with his cavalry before I could remind him he hadn't eaten the dung yet. Are we really going to provoke the corpses? Cow asked tremulously. I didn't count on him to fight. You stay and watch the slaves. Don't let them run, and any who try, burn them to ash with the contract. I said it loud, so the slaves heard and quailed, while Cow felt pardoned. I forced the slaves to equip sickles, dung forks, and felling axes, and led Ashna away. After 10 minutes, I circled into an empty stretch of woods, confirmed by the mini-map that no one was around, and pulled a beautiful crystal sphere from the bundle at my horse's side. Ashna's panel had changed, and my spacing out earlier had been to confirm I hadn't misread. She'd gone from malnourished to subhealthy, and unawakened had become awaiting awakening, meaning that with the awakening crystal as a catalyst, I could obtain a god's chosen this instant. My lord, is something the matter? Ashna fidgeted her small hands nervously. After 10 days of cutlets, she was warmly disposed toward me. Once she'd scrabbled daily for wild grass, and now she'd met this strange noble and dined on fine fare every day. Maybe that was wolf life for you. What's this? An awakening crystal, a treasure that cost me 60 gold. It hurt, only 500 to start with. Every awakening day, the Empire uses this thing to find chosen. One can test nearly 1,000 people. You truly think I'm a chosen? Let's not joke. Close your eyes and feel it with your heart. I've received a god's revelation, don't worry. I made it up, setting the sphere before her. Ashna didn't believe it, but didn't want to disappoint me. These days at close quarters, she felt I was a very different sort of noble, kinda her at least. The instant her hands touched the sphere, countless blue starlight motes welled out, gathering into the cold, elegant phantom of a goddess. The goddess of winter, who governs ice and snow. The demi-human slaves present recognized her at once. This was their very faith. Heavens, Ashna is actually a chosen of the winter goddess. The slaves dropped to their knees in a wave, shaking with excitement. It was my first time seeing such a spectacle, and I was sweating with thrill. This was a true miracle. The blue motes gathered into a peculiar rune. Ashna reflexively reached to touch it, the light condensing and finally branding itself onto the back of her hand. At the same time her body changed. Her figure grew taller, her aura cool, her crimson eyes carrying a chill, the whole of her gaining a few measures of force and composure. I really became a chosen? My lord, how did you do it? Her little mouth rounded, full of awe for me. A chosen's appearance came without warning. Even the empress's daughters were ordinary. The other slaves couldn't believe it either. All of them slaves, and a few days of the lord's grooming turned one into a chosen? A chosen was the god's will. So, they guessed, Field was a man favored by the gods, and they instantly came to revere me. A small thing. I waved a swollen hand, feigning modesty, and strode before them all. Now, does anyone still fret over our journey to the north, or resist my plan to open it up? They traded glances. Who would dare? Trust me. Do your jobs and complete your tasks, and not only will I return your freedom, I'll see you clothed and fed without worry. Please, let me form a contract with you. Ashna brought it up herself. I'd said before I'd make her a chosen and open up Nightfall by it. Of course, it's destiny. I played the holy man again. The binding was simple. She drew on the rune's power to forge a link with me, and the contract was made. Then I took out the slave contract, its mark already washed away by the chosen's purifying power, and as a formality tore it up before everyone, declaring her a free citizen of Nightfall. Ashna smiled, raised a hand, and the rune became a huge black dragon-breed wolf, jagged scales gleaming cold all over it, leaping out of the void and startling everyone. What's this? A dragon wolf, the goddess's gift, a mount, I think. She tidied her hair, every inch composed now, and I've gained many combat techniques. Becoming a chosen could bestow all sorts of odd treasures. Even if a chosen fell in battle, the treasures endured. House Ross had a 6th-rank divine artifact lance from the fallen Blood Rose chosen, the very source of the family name Ross. Her panel, name, Ashna level, 1st-rank chosen class, Wolf Cavalry divine skill, Spear of Bitter Cold piercing legion skill, Howling Charge, cavalry under her command, charge force plus 100%. Ashna's combat power sword, the Dragon Wolf mount alone could trade blows with a 3rd-rank Battle Chi Knight. With force at my back, my nerve fattened instantly. Stepmother, brother, none of it mattered. Sooner or later I'd grind them into the dirt. I smiled. Now, let's go take a look at the barracks and armory. Nearing the wall, the scattered skull markers on the map were still moving. There are corrupted monsters here. I drew my sword with a ring. Eliminating corruption for the local lord is the duty of every imperial noble. I lit the church's fog-dispelling lamp, its holy radiance scattering a great swath of gray fog, so I needn't worry about the slaves dying of the poison. I can sense the chosen's power, Ashna said, pointing at the golden lamp. I blinked. Pity I don't know how the church makes it. Pure profiteering, 25 gold a lamp, and it only lasts 30 days. Entering the pass, I didn't let the rabble scatter, but moved them in a cluster. Ashna pushed a barracks door ajar and saw 2 armored corpses, no weapons in hand, likely infected by the fog before they could grab them. Kill them. I'd taken a liking to their dense scale armor. Try not to wreck the armor. Understood. Ashna kicked the door open and rushed in. As a chosen, not only was her physique vastly enhanced, she was skilled in dedicated combat arts. The crash of the kicked open wooden door carried far in the gray fog, breaking the dead silence, and the corpses all around began to wail. Watching the skull markers swiftly converging on the mini-map and the faint, intermittent roars in my ears, I still broke a sweat. The corpses inside hadn't time to attack. Ashna cleaved one's neck, a jet of blood spattering the wall. Another lunged, its cheek torn to the ear, dodged by her almost lazily. Then a reverse slash shearing off half its head, the foul blood pooling. Roar! A pack of corrupted soldiers suddenly poured from the corridor, eyes rolling white. The slaves swung their tools wildly, but none dared step up. Monsters were terrifying enough, and these wore heavy armor. Damn, just how many were infected? I cursed under my breath. Fire! Ashna loosed the dragon wolf, the huge beast nearly filling the entire corridor, and it opened its maw and spewed a great gout of ghost blue flame, the corpses in the passage vanishing in an instant. Only a few writhing, twisted silhouettes left. What terrifying power! The slaves had been torn between fleeing and fighting, and in a blink the battle was over, most of them only able to stare at the ash on the floor. So this is a chosen's power? Pity it burned up the loot too. I was getting heady. Time to be bolder. Everyone make as much noise as you can. Draw the nearby corpses to us and wipe them out. The slaves obligingly banged and smashed, while Ashna and the dragon wolf strangled the gathering swarm one by one. Soon the area around the barracks was clean, and I gained a deeper grasp of the chosen. Now, find anything valuable, especially arms and coin. I bared a greedy grin. The moment I scattered the slaves out, one came running back excited. My lord, we found a survivor. But I wasn't glad. I scanned around uneasily. Ashna, recall your wolf. Now isn't the time to reveal our strength. Exposing that I had a chosen before I'd grown strong enough was suicide. My stepmother would surely send assassins, then have Ashna swap to a new master. Exposing it to the slaves didn't matter. They were under my eye, and a single thought would send them to meet their maker. I mused. A survivor might know where the important supplies were. The survivors hid in a bunker built into the wall. Purification potions splashed at the door, barely holding off the fog. Only at the sound of living voices did they dare open up. Thank the Valkyrie, I thought I'd be stuck a week. A bearded officer cracked a grisly joke, straightened his uniform, and smiled at me. I take it you're a newly knighted, sir? I'll be sure to report your deeds to Baron Bull. You're too kind, it was nothing. I cocked my head, trying to see what was in the bunker, but 2 soldiers blocked me. His 10 men were all inside. And your retinue? The officer swept a glance over my tool-wielding slave soldiers, not deigning to count them. I shrugged. I'm no knight, I'm Baron Field. Oh, the fellow without even a single guard. The beard's expression turned stranger, and he flicked his men a look, smiling not quite smiling. Lord Baron, I've long heard you're kind-hearted. Might you do us a favor? The tone was off. The original truly was kind, so I raised a brow and played dumb. Let's hear it. We got drunk and forgot to light the fog-dispelling lamp and lost control of the barracks. Baron Bull is brutal, will surely be put to death. Was that something I was meant to hear for free? So you want to defect to me? I smiled with interest. Ha! The soldiers laughed, gripping their weapons. We want to run, but we need a noble's entire savings. Also, killing you means no one knows we exist for a good while. Is this how you treat your benefactor? I was genuinely angered. I'd meant to recruit the survivors and find supplies, hack them down if they refused, but being challenged outright still rankled. The beard didn't care. If not for the lack of a fog lamp, we'd have fought our way out long ago. You're nothing. I let out a snort of laughter. What are you laughing at? The beard raised his saber, puzzled by my calm. Actually, I came to ransack this place to begin with. Perfect. Kill you all, and there are no witnesses. Ashna, do it. The soldier beside the beard erupted instantly, stabbing his blade straight at me. In a flash, a ghost blue figure swept past, and that soldier's arm was torn off without the slightest resistance. Clang! His short blade hit the floor. He toppled in terror, clutching the fontaining stump and shrieking. My arm! The ghost blue great wolf plugged the whole corridor, scales packed dense as a tank, fearsome to behold. A monster! The soldiers were scared witless. What the hell? Wasn't Baron Field supposed to be a rootless waste? The beard gaped, wishing he could skin the rumor-mongers alive. Ashna, cripple them all. I licked the corner of my mouth. The original was a saint, but what's that to me? Slaves, here's a chance to build your nerve. A silver coin per kill. This world was steeped in blood and treachery. Being too good gets you killed early, a noble most of all. I had no more patience or kindness to reason with this world's scum. Let iron and blood speak instead. Treachery is a noble's passport. It turned out humans killing their own kind was far easier than fighting corpses, if only because their own kind weren't hideous. A human slave howled and threw himself on the one-armed soldier, pinned him, drove a sickle into his neck, and yanked, tearing the head clean off. Well done, it's yours. I fished a silver coin from my pocket and tossed it to him. I permit slaves to own property. More work, more pay. The slaves around went red-eyed. 1 silver bought 100 black loaves, 100 more days of life. Stoked to bloodlust by money, and with Ashna's great wolf leading the charge, the slaves fell on them fearlessly. What an easy slaughter. Before a chosen, Full armored infantry were a joke. The heavy soldiers were flattened by a swipe of the wolf's claw, blood running in a river. Ignoring their pleas, I made short work of the mutinous guards, then tiptoed around the strewn limbs into the bunker. This is the armory. I could no longer hide my delight. Heaps of armor mountainous and reeking of tung oil, bundled neat. On the racks, standard halberds, steel sabers, iron-rimmed shields. Bows and crossbows hung on the walls, barrels of fletched arrows of every function. Easily enough to arm 500 men to the teeth. Full armor for all. No single baron could afford this much material. It had been shipped here from across the empire. Every year, each great lord must put up supplies and gold to support the border's defense against corrupted monsters and beastmen. Cashion Fortress is only an outpost, and it has this much. I daren't imagine how rich the giant fortresses behind it are. Are we rich now? Ashna picked up a cavalry bow, loath to put it down. A small fortune. This is nothing. Actually, I was over the moon and waved grandly. What are you standing around for? Arm up. Yes. Everyone fell to untying ropes and donning armor, feeling for the first time the heavy security of a steel shell, the only flaw being that the slaves were too thin and small, the armor hanging loose and swaying. Haha, that's for disgusting me, Richard. I rubbed my hands and summoned the slave who'd struck first. What's your name? My lord, I'm Lynx. He was very tense. In an age where knowledge was monopolized, lowborn names were thrown together any old way. I have a task for you. Let's rehearse it twice. I called him close and explained in low, conspiratorial detail with gestures. Since I'd already pocketed Baron Bull's armory, I might as well go a step further. Having sent Lynx off with 20 men, I eyed the armory full of arms. Take it all, or I won't rest easy. Ashna, have Cow bring everyone. Lower the gear down from the wall, and we'll collect it once past the pass. It's Nightfall's equipment now. Not enough. Gear alone didn't satisfy me. The trip to Nightfall was a gamble, and I had to go all in. Cashion Fortress drew supply from the whole nation's nobility, but the villages under its rule still paid every coin of tax. 6 large villages in all kept it supplied, on fertile land, sending a steady stream of cattle, sheep, wheat, and coin to the castle each year. Rolling hills, and a column of well-equipped soldiers bearing the Bull family banner passed through withered vines and broken walls. Oxhorn village was known to the countryside for its 2 towering watchtowers, which, counting the roof, stood all of 4 meters. Mount a hunter up there, and, behind the wooden wall and the militia, you could fend off bandits. Just last night, they'd shot 3 corpses that slipped in from outside. When even the fortress itself spawned monsters, the elders thought back to the dreaded beastmen. A few hemp-clad villagers sat at the village mouth idly chatting, dung forks in hand, bowls of vegetable broth held. It's the Lord's soldiers. The villagers recognized the banner but were puzzled by the purpose, faces blank. Soon Lynx's slave guards appeared. Open up, hurry. Lynx cursed, the soldier beside him planting a halberd but on the ground, scale armor clinking crisply, aping a noble swagger. You want us drinking the northwest wind out here? Damned fools. The villagers hastened to usher them in. My lord, sir, is this about the corpses? Our village repelled the attack. Thank the gods, and thanks to Baron Bull. The headman came up wreathed in smiles, but at the sight of Lynx visibly froze. I don't believe I've seen this officer. Lynx tensed, but remembered my instruction. When stuck for an answer, just curse. Up your mother's, you boot-licking dog. What's with all the chatter? I'm here to collect taxes, not trace family trees. Who cares if you've seen me or not? The headman, sprayed with spittle and frightened near to toppling by the drawn blade. As you say, sir, my fault. Farm tax, head tax, household tax, faith tax, land tax, exemption tax, and what else? You know, the usual Bull territory taxes. Medieval tax categories were wonderfully abundant. There was always one to fit. But it isn't tax collecting season yet, sir. A farmer pleaded miserably. Lynx kept a straight face. Because of the corpse incursion, protecting you is costly work, and we need more supplies. Got an objection? We can help you down to hell. My task for him was to collect taxes. Even if seen through it didn't matter, just rob them. They weren't Nightfall's people, who'd know who. Of course taxes were safest. The slaves were weak fighters, and a clash with the militia could go wrong. We'll pay. Pay in full. The headman gritted his teeth and had everyone lead out livestock and hand over grain. Oxhorn village soon boiled over like water poured into an anthill. 2 oxen, for sheep, sundry chickens and ducks, 5 cartloads of grain, and a total of 7 gold, 23 silver, 50 copper. The whole village scraped to the bone, weeping and pleading everywhere, a year's savings gone in a night. Nobles are terrifying. Lynx clicked his tongue privately. It was unpaid taxes that had made him a slave. Whether the villagers were dodging taxes didn't matter. It was all found money anyway. Now the headman crept up smiling again. My lord, by custom we must also offer up the village's maidens for the baron's pleasure. So saying, he pushed forward a few timid girls. Lynx blinked. Baron Field had said nothing of this. Clearly a routine cruelty of Baron Bulls. The slave guards beside him moved to refuse, but Lynx stopped them. Refusing would blow their cover. Fine, you'll all come with us first. He made up his mind. Deal with it once they reached the lord. Better than leaving the girls behind to suffer that village rule. Elsewhere, I was still directing the slaves to haul arms and magic items. In one bunker, I dug up the very fog-dispelling lamps the bearded officer had pined for. 3 of them, plus a great store of magic potions, mostly healing, worth no less than 200 gold total. With a haul this rich, when Lynx returned with the taxes, I still cried out, "Whoa, this many livestock." I hadn't expected one small village to yield so much. The tax rate must be horrifically high, since 20 men couldn't even haul it all, oxen and sheep and all. It seemed in the cursed land we'd not lack for meat anytime soon. The only thing that gnawed at me, I had, in fact, plundered a village. Don't be a bleeding heart, survive. I knocked my own head. Huaxia's enlightened morals didn't work in a dog-eat-dog medieval world. I could barely keep myself alive, so why fuss? Only by living could I do anything. Besides, nightfall was Bull Territory's buffer to the front. This support was my due. Keeping my own subjects fed was priority 1. Good. A silver coin each. I encouraged Lynx with a smile, generous with another man's money. Just earn me 1 gold coin apiece, and I'll grant you freedom. Free citizens of Nightfall. The slaves cheered like a tidal wave, feeling hope for real. My lord, let's go shake down the other villages too. Lynx, his incentive pay in hand, eyes blazing, planted himself firmly on my side. His earlier sympathy tossed in the trash. Bull Territory's villagers got fleeced. Why should we Nightfall folk pity them? Of course, squeeze every coin out of them. Finish by morning if we can. We're a bit pressed for time. Keep playing Bull Territory guards, and I'll reward you. But we had to be quick. Other imperial cities weren't cowards like Richard, and would soon note Bull Territory's crisis and send an army to clear the corruption. I couldn't be caught red-handed. My lord, there's also these girls. Lynx brought up the women offered by the village, among them a plain-robed little girl of about 12. I frowned. What's this? Why bring people back? The villagers offered them by Bull Territory custom. I figured it was nothing good and didn't want to touch it, but refusing on the spot might blow our cover, so I brought them back first. Punish me as you see fit, my lord. The disgust rose in me again. Bull Territory even had a rule like this. Nothing to punish. You handled it cleverly. I had Cow settle the girls, give them food, treat them gently. Any who want to go back, we'll send home before we leave. The little one's too young. Keep her with us for now. Going home might not be better for her. The girl was nothing special, just rather pretty. I asked a couple of idle questions and took her in. She already knew my secrets, so sending her back was neither safe nor necessarily good for her. Lynx, the guard troop is yours to lead from now on. Early next morning, gentle sunlight spilled down, and Ashna, listening to the racket of chickens, ducks, and cattle outside, gave a lazy yawn. The fatigue of yesterday's battle gone, she'd slept deeply. A soft cushion beneath her, a faint scent of gardenia, nothing like a cold, damp iron cage. Thank goodness the Lord chose me as his chosen. Lord Field really is the finest of men. Still, she rose quickly, for I'd said we'd enter the gray fog this very morning. How did you rest last night? Very well. You're busy, my lord. She stood obediently aside to wait. The northern province was vast, including Nightfall. It had once held rich cities and villages, now all corrupted and crawling with monsters. The heart of Nightfall was a once thriving grand estate, the property of a female baron, Sophia Starnight, her Starnight city within view of the manor. Conjuring a castle out of thin air with my current strength is a pipe dream. The best plan is to gnaw down the grand estate first, then use it as a base to slowly reclaim Starnight City. The map in my hands was still a 7-year-old edition. Back then, many a pioneering knight dreamed of reclaiming the north and set off full of confidence with servants and retainers. Few crawled back, and those who stayed all became monsters. There might even be a boss or something, more trouble for me. I griped silently. The strategic plan's lovely, but the risks in it would make your scalp crawl. My lord, the goods are all packed. Last night's support supplies, 7 oxen, 20 sheep, a pack horse, and a host of odds and ends, all logged in your ledger and packed up. The steward cow wore a decent tunic, but his face was pinched and sour. No one rejoices at entering the north. He'd thought of fleeing, but I gave him no chance. Lynx and the slave soldiers, corrupted by coin, were already my diehards, and the moment he ran they'd kill him and collect another silver. Damned running dogs, throwing their lives away for money. He cursed inwardly, but that's slaves for you. Give them a little hope and favor, and they'll lay down their lives. By the way, my lord, Cow hesitated again and again, glancing repeatedly at Ashna. Is Miss Ashna really a chosen, not a trick on us? Could she show us a miracle? I'd announced the news of the chosen the night before to lift spirits. I have to prove it to you too? Or would you like to do the opening up, and I'll be your steward? Though I wonder if you'd survive the Empire's encirclement. I checked Ashna's impulse to summon the great wolf and stared coldly at this steward who'd done nothing but croak doom. If not for him being one of only 2 people who could read and write, I'd have made him a stable hand. Time to put him in his place. Cow broke into a cold sweat, choked out an and dared say no more. His master was like a different man. Perhaps the family pressure had been too much? His head was mush. No objections, then we move out. I lit the fog-dispelling lamp. At 25 gold, every minute it burned was money tossed in the fire. Gritting my teeth, I stepped into the north, and at once every sound and trace of living things vanished, leaving only a terrible silence. Overhead loomed gray, leaden death fog, the sun nowhere to be seen. Linger, and it felt like being in the deep sea. Even I was tense and afraid, never mind the slaves. If not for the corruption that came with leaving the lamp and the announced news of the chosen, they'd long since have lost their reason and bolted into the fog. The ground crawled with red-black tentacles, corrupted plants, harmless but apt to snag wheels. Truly creepy as hell. I forced myself calm and walked at the head of the column, letting them see me and take courage. Even the life-clinging noble was here, so what excuse did they have to flee? Caw, 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 roar. The gray fog ceaselessly issued all manner of eerie cries. The lamp lit only 100-odd paces ahead, the roars coming from farther off. No sense of safety at all. Broken walls everywhere, withered heads spitted on iron spears on the ground. I even saw a faded griffin banner. The Empire had sent no few pioneering legions, all dead now, turned into locals. Gulp, I swallowed. My lord, fall back behind me. Ashna's crimson eyes watched warily to the front right. Monsters approaching. Soon a corpse missing half its face staggered into view. Whiff! Ashna drew and loosed a flash of silver, and the corpse's head burst like a melon, rolled twice, and lay still. Careful, more monsters incoming. A great patch of skull markers bloomed on the mini-map. Already spotted, I dropped the hushed voice. Like before, wagons into a wall, crossbowmen loose. At Cashion Fortress I'd scored 80 crossbows and 100 Imperial Standard bows, but only 2 or 3 slaves could shoot. Luckily crossbows are easy, so I armed 20 crossbowmen. The strange cries grew more frenzied, a black tide of corpses surging in amid dense footsteps. The mini-map told me their positions, but the density was too great. We were forced to engage. Loose, the slaves let fly their trembling bolts, and the front rank of corpses dropped 7 or 8, as if they'd hit an invisible wall. Ashna stowed her bow, summoned the great wolf, and rolled over them. Even at first rank, chosen her power outclassed any mortal. Her longsword flashing up and down, corpses beheaded or smashed by claws. She plunged into the thick of the swarm, and had the dragon wolf spin and spray fire. A flame tornado. Every corpse around it reduced to ash. She really is a chosen? Cao rubbed his eyes in disbelief. Ashna shouldered a huge share of the pressure, but the tension didn't ease. The fog choked off sight. Corpses kept pouring out, a massive mental weight on everyone. Kill, Lynx growled, jamming a halberd into a corpse with all his might. 3 or 4 halberds driving into its chest at once, then heaving up, and the corpse was flung like a torn sack. More corpse fiends crashed into Lynx's slave guards, fists and claws raining on shields and scale armor, clanging like a smithy. Something flying in. I noticed a fast-moving skull marker on the map, already above me. Of the whole column, I was the only one perched high. Too dangerous. Without hesitation, I rolled off my horse. The instant I steadied, before I could even look up, a gust of wind struck. Mind your head. I dropped low at once, stabbing the sword upward, and in a hurried glance saw a Batwoman. No hair, no brows, hideous of face, female only in the body, her arms bat wings, her legs sharp hooked talons. Wings beating, the Batwoman dove and snatched up a female slave. The poor demi-human struggled and screamed, but no one could save her. In moments she was torn in two, blood raining down to a chorus of cries, the Batwoman loosing a mocking shriek. Shoot that thing down for me. I was incandescent. No need to give the order. The crossbowmen raised their arms and a clattering volley poured out. The Batwoman, not expecting humans to have ranged means, ate it hard, 3 or 4 bolts in her, and crashed down like a wet rag. An ugly thing daring to attack my subjects. Every head out here is one I paid coin for. I snatched a halberd from a cart. Never mind noble decorum. Swung a full circle and pulped its head. To kill it, the flank fell into disorder. With the crossbows suppressing fire gone, a great mass of corpses surged in. Everyone clear out. Ashna channeled power, the black scales on the dragon wolf's neck sizzling smoke, terrifying energy gathering until even the space warped. Boom! Ghost blue flame erupted from the wolf's maw, a heat wave like a burst dam, the blue fire blanketing a wide swath before me, the twisting silhouettes swallowed in moments. I even felt the gray fog around us thin a good deal. So hot. The armored guards, close by, were roasted into grimaces, the corpse blood baked dry and crusted onto their armor. Ashna stuck out her tongue. Sorry. The string of flames wiped out the great swarm, the rest no threat. Everyone weathered the first corpse tide. 3 slaves and 1 slave guard dead. Acceptable. Rest here half an hour. Women, go gather the bolts. I took a water skin and gulped, the cold water on my throat clearing my head. We owe you, Ashna. I ruffled her head, drawing a blush, her wolf tail swinging like a propeller. She feigned modesty. It's only what I should do. But her face plainly read, praise me more, don't stop. No wonder the North was called the Cursed Land. Without Ashna, I couldn't have lasted long. I was shaken, but soon shook off the negativity. A new marker neared on the mini-map, a row of red exclamation points. More monsters? No, the formation's too neat, and there are exactly 19. I frowned in thought, then called Ashna and pointed ahead. Go lie in wait in the fog first, and improvise. The cavalry captain Connor and his brothers were likewise moving through the gray fog. This fog lamp's about to die. Damn, why's that brain-dead Baron's lamp so big and ours so small? The second miss is too stingy, wants the donkey to work, but won't give it carrots. Shut it, you brainless ass. Watch your big mouth, draws the corpses. The man beside him cursed nervously. I feel like something slipped in behind us. A sharp-eared cavalryman said uneasily, gripping his lance. We should have found a chance to kill Field before entering the North, not now. Connor said helplessly, you think I don't want to? But to kill a noble in broad daylight is enough to hang us all. That was exactly why they'd said their farewells and circled back, to find an alibi. The tracks of over 200 people couldn't be hidden, and the fresh foul blood and corpses on the ground were the best guide. Connor soon found us. Brothers, when we hit them, kill Field first, then sweep back and forth through the slaves and seize the fog lamp. The gray fog will kill everyone soon enough. A flawless plan. They set their lance charge formation, the warhorses breaking into a trot. I can already picture Field's terrified, begging face. Connor licked his lips and laughed wildly. But the instant he saw me, his laugh froze. A 30-man, full-armored guard with shields up and halberds set in a defensive formation, halberds gleaming, the foul blood and entrails on their armor announcing they were not to be trifled with. And I stood behind a wagon wall, 2 ranks of crossbowmen already knocked, awaiting only the word to fire. A crossbow even a 3-year-old can loose, punching clean through a grown man. Damn, we've been spotted, Connor gaped. How is this possible? Isn't Field a rootless coward? Where'd he get a guard? The cavalry rippled in agitation. An ambush with no surprise is a joke. Send warhorses against set heavy halberdiers? Or ram that wagon wall? Pull back. Connor hauled at his reins. Roar. A black great wolf over 2 meters tall, hulking as a bear, appeared behind the horses, and the warhorses shied and staggered, throwing Connor, who was scared out of his wits. Before he could grab a weapon, a long spear was at his throat, a stunning wolf demi-human eyeing him with a not-quite smile. One move, and he was dead, and worse, the fog lamp had been taken. This is the slave Field bought. Connor remembered at once, roaming the fog freely with no lamp. The men gaped. What foul luck! They'd run into a chosen. Who could have guessed Field had a chosen? Had they known, they wouldn't have come for 10,000 gold. Captain Connor, what are you doing here? You gave me a start. I didn't order the kill outright. I rolled my eyes slyly and spoke in the easy tone of greeting an old friend. Worried I wouldn't take up my post on time? Relax. Expanding the realm for the family is a noble's duty. Caught between life and death, Connor crashed like a frozen program. I wore a spring-warm, amiable expression. So you must be here to escort us, yes? Just as chivalry preaches. Connor was overjoyed, thinking I hadn't seen through him, and rode the slope down at once. Yes. Wonderful. Then dismount and have a cup of wheat ale. We're just about to set off, and you'll have ample chance to display your chivalry on the road. I raised a hand to wave a schna back and casually invited them to drink. The cavalry dawdled, guilty and hopeful. Charging a chosen head-on meant near total annihilation, and fleeing was impossible. A schna had taken the fog lamp when she felled Connor, and without it, plunging into the death fog was suicide. Seems the Baron didn't catch on to our plan. Right? Field was always a fool. Seeing my sincere face and recalling his old kindness and weakness, they spun fantasies, drank a few gulps of ale, and only then did their hanging hearts settle. My lord, I think we ought to head back and report. Connor found an excuse to slip away. I nearly cracked. This brain-dead bunch really thought me a fool to be tricked. I've requisitioned your warhorses for hauling cargo. You'll get them back at nightfall. I refused breezily and pointed to the head of the column. You just said you'd clear the way for us. Go on, clear the way. Connor felt the wrongness and panicked. I've changed my mind. Sorry, I really must hurry back to report. The Count must be waiting anxiously. I see you don't understand it all. I sneered and signaled a schna. Squelch. The great wolf bit down on one cavalryman's head, the crunching of its chewing nearly drowning out everyone's breathing, the headless soldier spurting blood and convulsing on the ground. Everyone, even my own subjects, held their breath, too savage. I was wrong, Baron Field. Connor folded at once, throwing himself flat. It was your second sister, Liz, who ordered me to do it. Must I say it twice, Captain Connor? I smiled sweetly. Scout the road ahead, or die right now. Connor felt the cold seep into his bones. Innate goodness. What a load of dung. He'd heard other nobles call Field meek as a lamb. Bah, all liars. Under the guards' halberds, the 18 now horseless cavalry formed a small square and walked at the front of the column. And my mini-map showed a great swath of corpses closing fast ahead. I let out a long breath. Move out. Nightfall lay in the southwest of the north. Relying on the mini-map, I skirted the great majority of monsters, and it still took 3 more days to reach the Grand Estate. The corpses along the way seemed beyond killing, as plain from Connor's trembling hands. His blade edge chipped and curled, his expression numb, a puppet on strings, the endless slaughter having broken him. Of the scouting cavalry, only he remained. A captain has his merits. But he too had been clawed open in several places, the flesh buds writhing, partly corrupted now, not far from death. Give him a clean end. At my word, a schna loosed her bowstring. an arrow finishing him, and a slave came up to loot the body with practiced ease. We've reached the Star Knight Grand Estate. No small feat. At the sight of the estate's entrance, I breathed out, and everyone cheered as one. All thanks to a schna and the mini-map. Without it marking enemy positions, sneaking in was impossible. The endless corpse tides alone would have drowned us. Clearly no living soul has set foot here in ages. A schna ripped away the briars choking the gate, and the rusted doors crashed down. She sprang aside cat-like and said sheepishly, "Air, the gate could use repairs." A tall, imposing European-style iron gate, fine stone-carved statues, a sprawling ornamental garden, corrupted into something eerie by the fog, yet still hinting at its former opulence. Two guards heaved the fallen gate aside, and through the corrupted plants I saw the remains of humans, corpses, and unnameable monsters. The Star Knight Grand Estate covered 30 hectares, about 40 football fields, including a swimming pool, gardens, farm cottages, granary, wine cellar, stable, and villas, with the central main building. Baron Sophia had owned a thriving city. Her fortune far exceeded what an honorary title implied. A big place, and no shortage of monsters. Corrupted 10 years, the granary and stable are worthless. An ornamental place like the garden has no value either. I compared the estate map with the mini-map. So do we clear the main building directly, or take a villa first? Besides the main building, the Grand Estate had 3 smaller villas. A schna was thrilled, encountering a high-class thing like a villa for the first time. The slaves more so, faces brimming with excitement. For the low-born, having worked in a noble's villa, even just sweeping, was something to brag about for life. I stared at the distant main building a while. Ghostly shapes moved behind its shattered windows, and I suddenly felt something watching me, a weight pressing my chest, my breathing quickening. There may be a great terror in the main building. Leave it be for now. I tore my gaze away and checked the mini-map. It was thick with skulls, but the most striking thing was a huge red in the main building's basement. Skulls mean corrupted monsters. What's that red dot? Probably another demon thing. My lord, why the troubled face? A schna sidled up, clutching her bow. Reaching here was the hard part. Why look worried only now? I waved a hand, not wanting to spread my anxiety and dampen morale already low, and pinched her wolf ear with mock teasing. Not worried. I'm deliberating whether to personally give my hard-working great heroine a massage. Her pretty face flushed, stammering, and seeing my child-teasing grin, she got it at once, puffing up in a huff. My lord goes too far, and here I was worried about you. I patted my aching neck. Thanks for the concern. Time to find a place to settle. I don't want to sleep in that cart 1 second more. The creaking is splitting my head. After studying the map, we'll take the Grand Winery. It's mostly brick and stone, not likely to rot into rubble. The Grand Winery sat southeast of the main building, with broad fertile fields growing the black pearl grapes for wine. This place had once made the Empire's most famous black pearl wine. Now the fields held only writhing black tentacles and corpses. Women, clear the fields. Leave not a speck of filth. These tentacled meat lumps look horrid but pose no threat. I kicked a corrupted meat blob sprouting 7 or 8 eyes. Before the fog came, these disgusting things were cute little animals. Yes, my lord. The slaves dragged their feet. Finish in 2 days, and I'll pay 10 copper as wages. This land will be our food source one day. I unleashed my killer move, letting slaves own money. Their eyes lit up, and they fell to killing corrupted creatures with quick hands, efficiency leaping tenfold. Cow rolled his eyes. Only a softy like you, my lord. These dirt clods won't work. Just hang them. Cleaner. Just then the freed villagers I dragged along came over to object. My lord, this is wishful thinking. The land's been poisoned. Even cleared of monsters, it can't be farmed. One stamped his foot, and the soft, rotten earth sank, pooling purple water. Look, like a swamp full of toxins. The slaves cast doubtful looks. My kindness, it seemed, was making some people overstep. My eyes lowered, my tone unreadable. This is my order, not a discussion. The villager, his head still loyal to Baron Bull, hadn't turned the corner. But there's no point to what you're doing. I frowned, my look unfriendly. Lynx and the guards instantly drew steel, a ringing wave of blades. Though Connor's men had done the heavy work on the road, The guards had been tempered too, and carried a sliver of killing edge now. The blade light snapped the crowd to their senses. They were actually questioning the new lord. Sweating in terror, they threw themselves flat. The mood iced over for half a minute before I waved a hand. Not out of putting on airs. I had no foundation, and in this place beyond the reach of order, if I couldn't control this lot, I had no business being a lord. You go clear too. The eastern land is all yours. And whoever called my plan wishful thinking, go take 5 lashes. A small punishment as a warning. Opening up and farming both needed them. The villagers felt pardoned. Yes, yes, yes. Everyone set to clearing the corruption, the corrupted creatures shrieking in alarm. Truly skin-crawling. I sucked in cold air, queasy. Spend too long in the cursed land, and you might go mad. I have to kindle the flame of civilization fast, starting with the winery. 2 torch-bearing farmers hauled open the winery doors, and a wave of dark stench rolled out. I nearly brought up last night's dinner. Careful, plenty of footsteps on the second floor. Ashna had no reaction to the stink. As a slave, she'd lived in worse. We'll take this great hall. There may be flammables, so no fire. Leave it to me. I drew my long sword and raised my iron-rimmed shield. Set halberds, brace for the charge. The guards, untrained as they were, had felt out the rhythm these past days, and the little square formed fast. I wrapped the shield with my hilt. Hey, neighbors, we've brought you some warmth. Roar. The dark was full of ghostly howls. Dense as drumbeats, the footsteps surged, and disfigured monsters charged out of the ink-black, flesh and steel colliding into one. Dinashna and her wolf held the main force. Her spear reaped corpses with ease. The wolf, a tank, buried under corpses into a ball without its defense breaking. Had I let it spew fire, it would have ended already. Ah, goddess above. A front-rank guard punched through one corpse, but was knocked staggering, and before he could steady was tackled by the corpses behind. I stepped half a pace and brought my longsword hard down on a corpse's skull. Corpses are just monsters in human skin, no armor. Where the blade passed, sinew and bone parted, the whole head lopped off. Thank you, my lord. The guard's trousers were soaked warm. He'd nearly kissed a monster from his face, wishing he could kneel and call me daddy. He had never so respected and thanked a noble in his life. I hauled him up and thumped his shoulder. It's hard work raising a fit soldier. I'm waiting for you all to shed your slave status and become true warriors, even knights. The guard's blood surged. He'd always taken my promises for pie in the sky, but now felt for real that I was a bit different from other nobles. Charge for Lord Field. The crowd around caught fire and hacked corpses like madmen. Soon the corpses drawn by the noise were cleared. A rough count gave over 70. Does winery work really need this many hands? When the Empire stirred up the death fog, why didn't it warn the people of the North to evacuate? Never mind, none of my business. I dropped the pointless question and pressed deeper. After a stretch, I found the great wine-making room and fantasized about sugar and wheat and the like. The answer was a hideous Batwoman's corpse, ripped open violently from neck to belly, its organs gone. Such a waste of all this barley. A floor's worth of what could still be called barley lay scattered nearby. 10 years in corruption setting the grains to a slow crawl, and I marveled. Maybe corruption isn't a curse, but some special radiation. Radiation? Ashna's brain crashed, chewing on the new word. Then her face changed. Look out. Something's coming in fast. So fast I hadn't even noticed the skull flash on the mini-map. Clang. The guard ahead's expression cracked. He reflexively looked at the ceiling, and the shield in his hands shattered into pieces as he was sent flying, clawing at air. A monster like a licker appeared where he'd stood. Only its long, slender tail and snout marked it as mutated from a rat. The rat monster shrieked and swung a claw at me, the giant talons swelling in my vision. Don't even think it. At the crucial instant, Ashna sent the dragon wolf flashing in front of me, curling to shield me completely. A crackling burst of sparks, and the dragon wolf took the claw on its scales without so much as a grunt. The rat monster was stunned too, staring at its all-conquering claw, which today came away with only 2 bloody scales. The great wolf slapped it sprawling. Lynx and the others seized the moment, sabers and halberds chopping wildly. But the rat monster's hide was thick. The storm of blows left only flesh wounds. and a flail of its limbs swatted 7 or 8 men flying like brushing off dust. Guards in armor, 100-some caddies each, tossed effortlessly. Stay back. This is beyond ordinary creatures. I raised my shield and crouched in a corner, cursing. Forgot the crossbows. Thick-hided things like this, common folk can only pierce with bolts. Leave it to a schna. The rat monster rose, meaning to grab a guard for a snack. I won't let you. A schna poured power into her spear, her aura erupting, the mighty force driving the spear into the rat monster like paper, lodging in the gap of its bones. Had the terrain not barred a wolf-mounted charge, that strike would have run it through. The rat monster screamed and clawed fast. Boom! The great wolf slammed into its chest like a bullet train, breaking the attack and knocking it back, bearing an opening. This was a third-rank corrupted creature. In cramped terrain, it took a third-rank human with battle chi or magic to kill, or fortress ballistae and armor-piercing bolts. Luckily, it chosen far outclasses ordinary folk. Even at first-rank, a schna could steamroll it. Spear of bitter cold piercing. She used her divine skill for the first time. Starlight gathered into a ghost blue spear in her hand, like a churning dragon, and driving from leg to waist to arm, she hurled it. The divine skill smashed into the rat monster, blood spraying, bones and sinews snapping, gobbets of flesh splattering the wall. Phew, finally dealt with it. Her face paled slightly, panting, a little tired. The fight ended in a flash of lightning, but the peril was suffocating. I let out a long breath too. Lucky to have you. That last venison cutlet is yours. Long live the Lord. At the mention of venison, her tail wagged non-stop, her battle cool gone, but she patted her chest. I'll only take half. You work hard too, my lord. I was deeply consoled. The mini-map showed the grand winery nearly cleared of monsters. To be safe, I first took the wounded out for treatment, then led the rested team through the winery in fine detail. By 9 at night, the cleanup reached its final step. The whole winery was battered, collapses everywhere. The one mercy was that the main structure held. A sweep of the first and second floors turned up nothing valuable, only some black timber good for sheds or firewood. Below is the wine cellar, my lord. A guard heaved open the heavy cellar door, revealing a dim stairway. I swallowed and rubbed my hands nervously. Bless me, let me find something useful. Great oak casks were piled in the dim cellar, some crushed by collapses, dried watermarks, and rat trails everywhere. At first sight of the wreck, I nearly despaired. But heaven leaves a door open. After searching a few spots, I found unopened casks. Tap, tap. I rapped a cask lightly. A dull thud answered, and my heartbeat ticked up 2 beats, but afraid to celebrate prematurely, I feigned calm. Open it. Let's hope it's full of fine wine, not tentacles. The gray fog corrupts only living things. Dead matter generally doesn't mutate, provided it's well sealed. A guard pried hard, and with a pop, rich wine aroma spilled out wildly. To smell top-grade wine in a winery full of rot was an experience as bizarre as digging gold from a ruin. That's it, black pearl wine, out of print across the empire. I pumped a fist in excitement and ordered the wine-craving guards. Call cow. Count how many drinkable casks we have. A schna gently advised. My lord, even fine wine should be taken in moderation. Many lords were ruined by drink. Relax, I won't drink this. More than wine, I wanted iced black tea. These out-of-print 10-year vintages are liquid gold. Shipped to the imperial capital. No, to any nearby city. They'll instantly fetch a mountain of gold. Those grandees would surely trample one another for famous wine. Oh, a schna tapped her lip, thinking, since it's so precious, we could brew wine ourselves too, since the grand winery's in our hands now. Good thinking, but only once we've secured our safety. Handing the cellar to Cow, I finally had time to survey my territory. Centered on the winery, about a sports field's worth of land around it. This was the ground I held. As long as the gray fog didn't shroud it and people could live on it, it counted as true territory. Now, the real challenge begins. I walked the perimeter. The corrupted creatures in the fields were mostly cleared, and it finally looked a touch like the human world. My subjects shoved the deformed, corrupted creatures into a pile. No fighting ability, their very existence a pollution, and burned them with cleared scrap timber, screams mixing with the roast as great clouds of gray smoke poured off the bodies. Valkyrie above, the devil's claws are finally cleared. A maid thumped her chest and cried out theatrically, the female slaves at work casting envious looks. To be allowed into the castle, eat the noble's leftovers, and have rest time was enough to make a slave green. Scissors, I need you to do something. Done with the territory, before issuing new decrees, I wanted to meet my servants. My lord, please say. The maid Scissors' smile vanished at once. Even her loud voice hushed. Feigned meek and foolish or not, I was still a being commoners looked up to. These 2 busy days of opening up, I'd overlooked much, and only now grasped the vast class gulf in this world. I recalled an incident from the good-for-nothing father's past. A farmer who stumbled on a rival noble's ambush ran specially to the castle to warn him, and the count turned the tables and crushed the enemy. By rights, the farmer should have been richly rewarded, but on his victorious return, the count had the farmer hanged in public. The reason being that the farmer's lowly shoes left dirty footprints on the count's carpet. To a noble, a subject was a turd, a slave less than that. I'm no saint. I won't overthrow my own ways or go fully native into a feudal noble. I just want my subjects to live well, obedient subjects, of course. Scissors, gather everyone who serves me. I have something to say. Yes, my lord. Scissors lifted her apron and trotted off. The steward arrived first, highest ranking of the house staff. My lord, the casks aren't all counted yet. 2 days at least. Cow panted, so scrawny his thighs barely had meat. Yet his wages were the highest in the territory, 5 silver 50 copper a month. Purchasing and accounting were his, and with a little scheming his income could double. In the empire, 1 copper bought a black loaf, black rye bran bread cut with sawdust and bark, hard enough to crack teeth, soaked soft in hot broth and dipped in coarse salt, salty bitter. Yet for this garbage food, many couldn't earn even 2 loaves worth in a day's labor and ended up slaves. Maids, manservants, and cooks all earned a daily 15 copper for silver 50 a month. Soon I'd met the servants, 2 maids, 1 manservant, 1 cook. In the modern world, 2 or 3 servants is impressive, but in the medieval era, I was just a destitute noble. My sister, the one whose cavalry tried to ram me to death, had 20 manservants alone. They all bowed their heads, avoiding the Lord's eyes. That would be rude. I don't even know my manservant's name. I asked the steward. My lord, he's called Croc, 16, his parents both farmers. The cook is Platter. The maids are Scissors and Sparrow. In this world, only those who held knowledge, nobles, or the extraordinary, got pleasant names. My lord, your orders? Croc, named, was so scared his voice shook. He feared being fired, having slacked 10 minutes mopping yesterday. The makeshift bed you laid in the cart was so soft. Without it, I'd have been rattled to pieces on the road. I said lightly and snapped my fingers. Cow. Reward Croc 1 silver coin. HSS. The others shot him envious looks at once. A silver coin was over 6 days' wages. Croc froze, then exulted, throwing himself at my feet to kiss my boots. Goddess above, thank you for your generosity. He vowed silently, never to slack again, not for 1 minute. There'll be a selection each month. Anyone who performs well has a chance at a silver reward. A cook who makes something delicious, a maid who sweeps a room clean, and so on. I see it all. Their breathing quickened, eyeing one another, fire of competition in their eyes. The corner of my mouth lifted. From now on, their efficiency would be lit by silver, and most importantly, there'd be reports and tattling, which I wanted. Subordinates banding together is not always good, apt to collude and deceive the Lord. All right, off you go. They hurried away, and the steward took a couple of steps, then hesitated and came back. What is it? My lord, it's not my place. But as steward, I must give you a piece of advice. Cow, since making it into nightfall alive, had dropped the constant griping and begun working in earnest. Speak freely. It's the race issue. You seem to have given the demi-humans a path upward, promising them free citizenship. But demi-humans aren't like us. Apart from Lady Ishna, there's no need to free the rest. I mused a moment. We're in the cursed land now, surrounded by death. When in Rome, nightfall should have its own rules. Tomorrow I'll announce a unified code, and you'll understand then. That night, I took out paper and pen and drafted Nightfall's development plan, writing in the Chinese characters only I could read. Plunder and exploration. My territory is destitute. To develop fast and accumulate means of production, 200 people alone won't cut it. Even the land was full of toxins. Knock, knock, knock. My lord, it's me. Ashna's voice came from outside the door. My plan needed her backing. Come in. I've been waiting for you. Good evening, my lord. She'd changed into clean, well-fitting clothes. Freed from a slave's hard life, she was quiet and crisp now. What can I do for you? It's about developing the territory. Oh, she relaxed. My lord, I've no management experience. I may be no help. Before slavery, she'd been only a free citizen, daughter of a wolf demi-human hunting family, unable to read or manage. It's fine. You can learn. I'll teach you hand in hand. Besides, you're a chosen. You have a natural edge. The world's greatest leap in class was becoming a chosen. 1 second you might face execution, the next you're a chosen, and the local noble will declare you innocent and seat you as an honored guest, since the gods don't choose wrongly. That's also why the lowborn don't resist their lords. Everyone has a shot at the leap, and the moment a daughter or daughter-in-law becomes a chosen, you're set for life. I've decided to plunder my younger brother. I opened with the trump card. Ashna blanked. Was that something I was meant to hear? All right, I support you unconditionally. Confirming I wasn't joking, she thought a moment. You're not a cruel or evil man that I can feel. During her slavery, I'd never abused her. On the contrary, I was the most singular person she'd met. I treated demi-humans as equals, a true gentleman. Thank you. I poured her a cup of black tea. It's a long story. I still remembered my brother's vicious, perverted eyes, enough to rob me of sleep. He'd crowed about killing the people I cared for. I was no soft persimmon like the original. I had to strike back hard and start preparing now. I'll tell you the reasons slowly. I need your help training a light cavalry made for raiding. The 20 warhorses my dear second sister donated would come in handy. Plan settled. The next day I called a full territory assembly, every slave required to attend. Each arrival was drawn to the wooden box beside me, heaped with silver and copper coins. I made no long speech, instead producing a roster. Guard members, come collect your bounty as I call your name. 1 silver per corpse slain. I keep my word. Then, with my own hands, I paid out the bounties, and the slaves wept with emotion. How could they not? The slave hammer, top killer, took 17 silver coins, a fortune many never amass in a lifetime. Even my maids were jealous, the rest glaring greedily at the coins in their hands. If only I'd joined the guard when it formed. Damn, I wasn't picked back then. What a waste. The once timid now stamped their feet in frustration. Listen, my subjects. I now declare Nightfall's development plan. It concerns the future of every one of you. With the lure of coin, the slave's ears all but stood erect, more attentive than at prayer. First, to shed your slave status, earn me 1 gold coin. Don't despair yet. Under any other lord it's impossible, but in Nightfall it's simple. Look at the valiant hammer. One day, 17 silver. At the praise, Hammer puffed out his chest proudly, the first compliment of his life, instead of being called a brainless ass, and from the Lord himself no less. Goddess, today must be my lucky day. Basking in the envy and longing around him, he was puffed up indeed. Same rule as always, a silver per corpse slain. On top of that, I'll post a series of non-combat tasks, farming, building walls, repairs, and so on, all paid. Slaves lack initiative. I urgently needed free citizens. A free citizen needn't be housed, clothed, and fed by me, can be taxed, and has motive to learn skills. The crowd buzzed, and I went straight to the second point. Second, I don't care about the race question, just don't break the basic law. I'm no demi-human, but my dear chosen is. Pack away your prejudice. Lift your eyes to the death fog around you, and don't get everyone killed over something so absurd. I paused. Personally, I'm quite fond of demi-humans. As long as you're diligent and honest and cause no trouble, you're my good subjects. These past days I'd found demi-humans nothing like the lazy gluttons of rumor and was glad to take them in. Ashna's eyes reddened. She felt respected, treated as an equal. Third, from now on, when you pray, include Ashna's name. I'd agonized over this point. I wanted a more scientific territory, but the books said a chosen's power draws from faith and a city's prosperity. Ashna, now first rank, needed a great mass of subjects' belief to advance to second rank. I had my doubts. If power rose with faith, the papal states with believers across the continent should be strongest, yet they aren't. The Holy Griffin Empire has already surpassed the papal states in top-tier might. But I've no control group and no margin to fail, so let's try the old hands method first. Then I conscripted slave soldiers again. No wages, but 3 meals provided. Income only from kills. Unlike last time when no one volunteered, this time a black mass jostled to sign up. I didn't take all comers. I pointed to the territory's edge. Want to be a soldier? Run 5 laps of my territory, and I'll pick the best. I'm very democratic. You may quit at any time. A breezy line and 6 men quit. Lazybones content with 1 black loaf a day. Can't even manage basic obedience. Clearly just here to mooch a meal. I shook my head. I didn't want soldiers like that. The rest gritted their teeth and ran. The new recruits' quality was far below the first batch, scrawny as skeletons, and only at noon did the last finish. Watching that staggering figure, I was pleased rather than angry. Physique can be built up. Tenacious grit is rare. Cutting 2 who cheated on their lap count, I had 23 soldiers. I pulled all the wolf demi-humans from the original 30-man guard, mixed in new recruits, and formed a 20-man raiding cavalry, the rest making a 33-man escort guard. Any noble or knight who saw this would be dumbstruck. Training commoners into an army is mad enough, let alone slaves. To them, a slave isn't even fit to be cannon fodder filling a moat. The steward eyed these skeleton soldiers, mouth wide enough to swallow an ostrich egg. My lord, a 30-man guard was already preposterous. Now you expand it. And give precious warhorses to lowly slaves? They'll just turn around and eat the horses. Calm down, cow. Look at Lynx and Hammer's performance. Excellent. We made it here and cleared a foothold thanks to them. Pure desperation. Faced with a true test, they'll scatter like startled birds. Cow pointed at the sky in solemn vow. Real soldiers must come from military families, with martial discipline and weapon skill, and noble character besides. I rubbed my brow. This guy had clearly been brainwashed by bards. Then what should I use? We're surrounded by monsters. Hire mercenaries and adventurers, of course. Mercenaries? Those unreliable types would sell me out at the first turn. History proves 1,000 times only soldiers drawn from the people make an army with potential. Thanks for the advice, but I'll give them a chance. I rolled my eyes, my tone brooking no argument. Cow, upgrade the soldiers' rations, an extra egg each. This afternoon I'll take them out to clear monsters. They'll show their worth. Hands were scarce in the territory. I dared not take everyone, or the base might be overrun. At 1 in the afternoon, I led the slave guards into the gray fog. Time loses meaning in the fog, forever let in gray, turning pitch black only at night. Ashna rode the great wolf at point. A chosen's eyes seemed remade to see the world more clearly. Behind came the new guard and I, struggling through woods full of briars and fleshy tentacles. By the map, we'll soon reach Rum Village, which once supplied the city with vegetables. Pity all I see now is corruption. Ashna shaded her eyes and peered ahead. Careful, front right, 7 corpses closing in. Rum villagers, I think. Let the rookies cut their teeth. Seeing her relaxed, I knew they were weak fry, perfect for blooding the new soldiers. A few rookies gulped. Instinct told them to flee, but the Lord was behind them, so none dared budge. The thought of the noon egg, many slaves had never eaten one in their lives. Bolting them so fast at midday a few choked, seemed to lift their souls. For that joy, they'd risk death. Roar! A gaunt, revolting female corpse, slick with slime, charged from the fog. The veteran guard set halberds and stabbed from all sides, pinning it fast. Come, burst the head, or stab the chest a few more times. Steady hands, no big swings. Lynx generously shared his know-how, dragging the weak-kneed rookie before the corpse. The rookie raised his halberd a few times, but couldn't bring himself to thrust, scared by the snarling into wetting his trousers. It's a devil. His teeth chattered. In my past life, I'd seen plenty of zombie films. The slaves hadn't, and were certain a devil lived inside the corpse, ready to curse you at a slip. Strike. Don't be a craven quail. I barked. I couldn't let fear spread, or more would see corpses as devils rather than killable things. Even if it is a devil, With me and the Chosen here, what's there to fear? I'll kill the devil for you to watch. Browbeaten, the rookie finally shut his eyes and jabbed the halberd, nearly missing and falling into the corpse's arms. But he'd taken the first step, and once done collapsed limp on his backside. See, not hard, and no curse. I snapped my fingers. Mind your distance, and they're easier than dumb deer. With a demonstration, the other rookies summoned the nerve to act and easily finished this batch of monsters. Pressing on, we soon reached the outskirts of Rum Village. What's wrong with these corpses? I frowned at the trembling skull markers on the mini-map, scratching my head in confusion. My lord, it's too dangerous ahead. I can clear Rum Village's corpses alone. Let me go. Ashna's eyes shifted, a flush rising on her snow-white face. The odd look pricked my curiosity at once. What exactly had she seen? Let's go look together. I stroked my chin. Fine. She hemmed and hawed. When I saw the scene before me, I instantly regretted my stubbornness. In the fields outside the village, a great heap of deformed corpses writhed in a tangled, teeming mass, mindlessly squirming together, the sight chaotic and revolting in the extreme. No wonder that female corpse earlier hadn't even clothes. This cursed land, once it turned a person into a monster, left not even the most basic semblance behind. The soldiers, tickled by the absurd sight, hooted and hollered. The oppressive mood swept away. Boom! Ashna directed the dragon wolf to spew purifying fire, the scorching blue flames swallowing most of the twisted shapes, the crack of breaking bones unceasing, until all were ash. A few corpses still in human form shrieked and charged from behind. Hammer reacted, his tall frame leaning back like a drawn bow, and as a corpse closed in, a shield bash bowled it over. Then ruthless stamping crushed its frail ribcage. The guards refused to be outdone. These staggering corpses were all walking silver coins, and a flurry of halberd jabs left a string of bodies. Charge into the village together. Mind you don't leave the lamp's range. My hands itched, but I held the fog lamp, or I'd have hacked a couple myself for the thrill. The guards advanced steadily, and I distinctly heard their footfalls fall into unison, merging into a rhythmic thunder, a natural drumbeat. And with the rhythm held, each man could feel the collective's power. The rookies, swept up, joined the killing too. Soon most of Rum Village's corpses were slain, rotting bodies and foul stench everywhere. I walked to a collapsed broken well at the village center, set down the fog lamp, and had just declared a 5-minute rest when a great patch of red skull markers suddenly flooded the mini-map. Careful, more monsters here. No, a great many. Without a word I made to retreat, but the enemy was fast, faster than a trotting horse. My lord, run. I saw. A scouting guard came rushing, but I cut him off mid-sentence. Leaving now meant colliding head-on with them. The urgent thing was to find a defensible spot. My lord, stay close to me later. Ashna gripped my arm and said low, I'm confident I can break us out. I nodded. I will, but I won't flee until the very end. Ditch the carts here, draw the bolts and knock. Learning from last time, I deliberately brought crossbows. Roar, roar. A dwarfish monster vaulted a ruined wall onto a guard, gaping wide to bite, its teeth shrieking against the scale armor. The guard flailed but couldn't shake it off. Luckily, Ashna reacted fast, a single cut cleaving it in two. This is a corrupted monkey. Long arms, long legs, and a tail. A monkey, surely. As if on some signal, all of Rum Village boiled over, dwarf monsters bounding wildly everywhere, a black mass like a surging muddy torrent. I forced myself calm, scanning and calculating fast on the mini-map. One wrong step, and we'd all be trapped to die. Run. Head southeast. There's a big courtyard there. More and more dwarf corpse monsters vaulted the ruins into view. Loose. The guards had waited for this, crossbows snapping, the bounding monkey monsters bursting into flowers of blood, dropping as if they'd hit an invisible wall, bodies littering the ground. Open the way. Ashna waved, and the dragon wolf surged ahead, spewing flame as it pushed. She herself held the rear decisively, and as 5 monkey monsters pounced at once, she flashed her form, cavalry saber sweeping, and in the wake of the cold flash all 5 were cut in half at the waist. Catching a flicker of one crawling fast along the ground to ambush her, she stamped down a heel, popping its head with a splat. In the time she bought, I led the men into the courtyard, the guards already barricading the gate with stones and broken furniture. It's not safe here. Fall back further. Use the buildings for defense. I checked the mini-map again. The tide of red markers had no visible end. The one comfort being that the monster's goal wasn't us, but somewhere in another direction, only brushing past Rum Village. Block the gate. Rest in shifts. They're only passing through. They'll leave soon. I rallied them. With the dragon wolf, Ashna, and the troops, holding the gate wasn't hard. Before long, the corrupted monkey horde launched a storm-like assault, but my battle line was a stubborn dike. Full armored guards with thick shields held the gate, the monkeys unable to break through. The great wolf was a fire-spewing tank, wrapped up like a dumpling without a single scale breaking. Its only drawback being that Ashna was again forced off her mount to fight his infantry. I panted, heart pounding. The cursed land's dread reputation was no empty rumor. Surviving this long owed half to luck. We have to raise walls fast. I was thankful the monsters hadn't headed for the Grand Winery. Covering one another, we held half an hour before the monster tide slowly thinned. Phew, exhausting. Ashna sheathed her blade and flicked off the foul blood. Even a chosen has limited strength, and this was the biggest corpse tide we'd met in Nightfall. The last monkey monster cut down, the area was cleared. You've worked hard. Seeing her dripping with sweat, my heart ached. She'd had to hold the line, deal damage, and ease the pressure on others all at once. Thanks to her, not one guard had died. You could say everyone was holding her back, yet training the guards was necessary. No meal eaten in vain. She winked playfully. Thank you, Lady Ashna. The guards thanked her sheepishly too, the hostile wariness in their eyes gone. Only simple, all left. Rest half an hour, then we move. I prodded a monster corpse with my longsword, curious about its make and its migration's purpose. Rum Village had been corrupted 10 years. Most buildings collapsed, windows shattered. A village that was really a great rubbish heap. I held out little hope. After the break, search for loot in groups of 5. Take anything useful. Nightfall lacked everything. Pots, pans, even scraps of wood had great use. Ashna made a circuit and came back to report. My lord, I noticed an odd plant in one farm courtyard, glowing green. I sensed the power of magic in it. Oh, let's look. The word magic was especially alluring. Could it be a heaven and earth treasure like in the novels? We came to a house on the village's west side. Its body collapsed, but the stone courtyard wall well preserved. At a glance, I spotted a small patch of plant flecked with starry green light and went straight over to study it. Looks a bit like a sprout of bok choy, just breaking soil. I poked it with a finger, and a strange odor surged up my nose. Achoo! I sneezed hard. Then a wave of dizziness hit, my vision swimming, my head muddling, my whole body swaying. Wait, are you all right? Seeing my changed look, Ashna started and rushed over. Veins throbbed at my temple, cold sweat poured, my consciousness blurring. My lord, what's wrong? Ashna caught my swaying body, the winter goddess's divine power welling up instinctively. The plant did indeed have something off about it. Nothing in the gray fog is benign. Goddess of winter, watch over us. Not daring to delay, she pressed pure divine power to the point between my brows. A cool current instantly drove off the magic plant's toxin, my muddled head clearing. Ugh, so dizzy. I held my head and came around. You were just choked by that plant. Your senses went haywire. You nearly collapsed. You scared me half to death. Ashna patted her chest, shaken. The gray fog truly holds nothing but the devil's things. I should have burned it on sight. I don't think I finished studying that bok choy. I frowned and shook my numbed arm, bending to pluck a sample. So this is a magic plant. Don't. Ashna nearly lost it, grabbing me. It already knocked you out once. This thing's extremely dangerous. Don't touch it. Helplessly, she recounted the peril. Corrupted, I'd lost my senses. Without her timely purification, who knew what might have gone wrong? What a vicious plant. I shuddered inside. Pity. I've no memory of it at all. What pity? You scared me to death. What if this plant devours souls? What becomes of the territory? She waved her finger angrily, her crimson eyes blazing like a fanatic villager off to burn a witch. Burn it, and the devil's plan comes to nothing. Watching her flap about, I laughed. Don't fret. Meet new things with patience and an open mind. Think, what if we fed this thing to a horse or an ox? Ashnah's eyes went wide, hands forming an X. No crossbreeding. An ox and a horse can't possibly. PFF. I burst out laughing. Clearly all that fuss had knocked her IQ offline. I mean the breeding of livestock. With an herb like this, breeding our beasts will be far easier. And once the cattle and sheep multiply, we'll have meat to spare. I snapped my fingers happily. A chosen's magic resistance is formidable. Royal scholars tested it. A common chosen is immune to 35 to 70% of magic damage. Defense specialized ones are wholly immune and can even reflect it, so having Ashnah fetch it was safest. I handed her a jar, and she collected 3 samples, soil and sprout and all. The monetary haul was dismal. The guards searched all of Rum Village and turned up only 21 silver and 87 copper. The village is too poor, and we weren't the first to visit. I pinched an old silver coin and wiped off the dirt. When the Empire and Beastmen fought, both sides came to loot. Little coin is to be expected. The other spoils, one barely usable chair, a chest, a dozen odd broken pots, and a great pile of firewood pried from furniture. Luckily, the return trip was smooth, no monsters waylaying us. The instant I stepped back into the territory, my eyes lit up. The fields were free of writhing tentacle lumps, scrubbed clean as a good back scratch. Only the toxin-laden soil and the ash of burned, corrupted creatures left. My lord, we've cleared all corruption within the territory and burned it to ash. A slave stooped fawningly. Astride my horse, I surveyed the perimeter and nodded. Well done. Everyone gets paid. The slaves beamed. Next, repair the grand winery. Scrape out the corruption remnants. Swap the rotten wood. Patch the collapses and holes. Living in a place riddled with drafts and the urine stink of monsters was torment, even if it was Nightfall's best dwelling. But my lord, I don't know carpentry. I blanked, having forgotten that point, and called out at once. Anyone here a carpenter, mason, or smith? Dead silence. Cal said bluntly. My lord, those who hold a craft are free citizens. Slaves are all useless. Then we recruit, and I happen to be planning a trip to a city outside the fog. The nearest is Maple City in High Castle Province. It'll have what we need. Cal looked regretful. Every city's craftsmen belong to a dedicated guild, under the Lord's direct control. Money alone can't recruit them, and I doubt any craftsman would willingly come to Nightfall. I'll go myself. I shrugged. Cal only ever raised objections, never thought to solve problems. I was used to it. Conveniently, I'll bring wine to sell. I'll label it a rare treasure, which it is, and with a strange story attached, it'll sell like fire. Like a dragon's hoard? Ashnah half understood. I snapped my fingers. Exactly. Even a boot, picked up in a dragon's lair, is the boot a dragon guarded. And we're not even lying. These wines really were guarded by a powerful, corrupted creature, even if it had no interest in wine. Ashnah stifled a giggle behind her hand. Carpentry can wait. First, clear all the trash out of the grand winery. Haul out the rotted equipment and collapsed stone. Scrub it down. Figure 3 days, 20 copper each when done. My lord, you're so generous. My generosity was by now a territory-wide consensus. Outside Nightfall, a free citizen might not earn 20 copper in a whole month. To me, the scattered coin would soon flow back to my purse. Nothing at all. I couldn't wait for slaves to become free citizens, for only free citizens marry and bear children, and only they pay taxes and bear duties. Mid-thought, I felt an invisible force flow into me. No rise in strength, but I sensed the change at once. I'd advanced to first-rank lord. In truth, contracting a chosen carries the chance to become a lord, and I'd had the lord talent already, so this came naturally. This world had not only knights, mages, and chosen. Lords too had ranks, just with little killing power, the main use being to see the territory's overall state. Name, field class, lord territory, Star Knight Grand Winery and nearby fields contracted chosen. Ashnah population, 217 development. 1. Destitute, happiness. -32, despondent and oppressed, environment. -89, corruption-ridden, unfit for habitation, chosen appearance probability. 1 in 100 billion lord talents. Minimap, detects surrounding creatures. Exclusive. Status panel. Visualizes creature attributes. Exclusive. Domain of prosperity. Disperses death fog within the territory. Accelerates dissolution of corruption's effects. Chosen granted talents. Ferocious beast taming. War beasts more easily bred within the territory, provided by Ashna. Investiture. Upgrade 50 wolf cavalry to first rank, provided by Ashna. My eyes lit up, and unable to suppress the rising corners of my mouth, I laughed freely. What's so funny, my lord? Nothing. I thought of something amusing. I had someone extinguish the territory's fog lamp, scaring everyone witless. They thought I'd lost my mind. All right, no more frightening you. I spread my hands and laughed. I've mastered a lord talent. Without the fog lamp, the territory still won't be eroded by corruption. They half believed, not daring to argue, until the lamp went out and not a wisp of fog seeped in. Then they relaxed and plunged into wild joy. The fog lamp lasted only a month. The Lord had no money to buy more from the church, and they could die at any time. With the Lord's fog-dispelling power, they'd truly driven a nail into nightfall. Extra rations tonight. A bowl of meat broth and 2 loaves each. One fog lamp saved was 25 gold. This round-eyed made 25,000 black loaves worth. Hurrah! The crowd cheered and leapt. The maid's scissors hollered in her big voice. No wonder I dreamed of Grandma smiling at me last night. Lord Field, you're a born noble. The blood of a lord runs in your veins. Flattered, I told Cow at once. Give my maids, manservant, and cook an extra share of honey cake. Heavens, my lord, we haven't much honey cake. Cow yelped, true to his offend everyone form. Maids can eat your and Lady Ashna's leftovers, which are already the best food in the whole territory. Scissors near ground her teeth to dust, wishing she could pounce and claw his face. Enough. Everyone's happy for once. Scissors, why are you standing there? Go to the storeroom and hand out cake to all. I was never stingy with such small kindnesses. Long live the Lord. The 2 sweet-toothed maids skipped off to the storeroom. Cow sighed and quietly tallied the territory's supplies. The north-southeast was Morning Wind Province, where my good-for-nothing father resided. Its southwest was High Castle Province. Due north lay the Beastman's homeland. I decided on High Castle, a province with 5 counties worth of land and many mountains. Seated at a wooden table, the creaking broken window making me frown, I carefully opened a book titled Gray Fog and Death, worth 10 silver, by the Empire's famous scholar-explorer Lucas. Gemini Calendar, Year 147, September the 1st. Today should be the nation's joyous awakening day, but for the Empire's future, I, Lucas, resolutely entered the abandoned cursed land, the northern province. With me are 2 royal chosen, and the fallen noble Darren and his chosen daughter. I plucked a slice of cut apple from the plate and popped it in my mouth, the sweet juice reviving me, and read on. The North's 3 outer baronies, Cloudvale, Nightfall, Dawnvale, I visited in my youth, all lands of plenty, now riddled with corruption. There is among them a Batwoman that frequently attacks us, hideous of face. I conjecture they are all corrupted from women of the dust, for fragments of their distinctive tattoos and jewelry still cling to their limbs. May the goddess see us out of this dead land. Reading the scholar's notes, so full of I feel and I conjecture, I shut the book, in no mood to go on. Lucas was a mere adventurer or explorer. As a scholar, he lacked rigor. Not all living things are unable to resist corruption. Plants at least can. I recalled the green plant gathered at Rum Village, neither meat lump nor tentacle. The notes recorded only that his companion guard Steelfork finally died of corruption, in great agony at the end. Corruption is the devil's curse after all, and apart from chosen, almost no living thing can withstand it. Ah! A scream came from outside the window. My hand jerked, and I nearly knocked over the teacup, the hot tea scalding me. I glanced at the mini-map, no skull markers. Some fool asking for a beating, stirring up trouble again. I rubbed my temples. With slaves living cheek by jowl, violence and conflict were inevitable, and the whip couldn't change their nature. My lord, a patter of running steps in the corridor, the manservant Croc rapping urgently. Come in, what is it? I stepped to the window and glanced out. Pitch black outside, torches raised below, only some panicked faces visible. It seemed graver than I'd thought. Croc threw himself prostrate, trembling. My lord, the territory's in big trouble. Calm down, what trouble? Bandits. Armed bandits attacked the territory. Croc was young, terror shaking his hands. A few slaves went to the fields to relieve themselves when bandits suddenly charged out of the gray fog, killed 2 with spears, and dragged off a female slave. I stepped forward urgently. They didn't press the attack, they withdrew? Yes, they left at once. Damn it all. I cursed aloud. Knowing to withdraw meant a measure of intelligence. To run into bandits in this godforsaken, toxin-choked place. Was there anything more absurd? Perhaps my lovely stepmother and siblings? It was possible, and if they'd gotten wind of the Chosen, that was dangerous. I checked the mini-map again. Nothing amiss. It reminded me of Connor's cavalry. Only at a certain range had the exclamation mark shown. So the mini-map's warning range was limited, broadcasting at distance only for chosen and corrupted creatures. Tell the others to take cover on the Grand Winery's ground floor. I'll go after them. I took down my longsword and hurried downstairs. Ashna was already below examining the bodies, and at the sight of me apologized contritely. I disturbed your rest and let the enemy into the territory, my dereliction. Not your dereliction. The territory has no walls. Infiltration is hardly impossible. She'd fought all day. Her exhaustion missing the enemy was natural. I crouched, tore open a corpse's sour stinking hemp shirt, and cocked my head in puzzlement. The belly wound's thrust angle is upward. Were these bandits dwarves? It is strange. Ashna stroked her chin. Maybe not human, perhaps dwarves. My worry eased a little. At least it wasn't life-threatening. Ashna, can your wolf scent the enemy's trail? Using a dragon breed great wolf as a tracking hound sounded absurd. She smacked her forehead. Why didn't I think of that? Take me along. I want to see what dares attack my territory. I gritted my teeth. I'll smash their dog heads. Of course, I'll be your blade. The great wolf sniffed the corpses a few times, its ghost blue vertical eyes fixing northeast. The enemy fled that way. Good thing not south. The enemy really might not be human. A dozen-odd slave guards came running half-dressed, armor on, eyes bleary. I made to curse, then stopped. Don't expect soldiers of this era to march to command. Guard the territory. Don't let the enemy double back. Pursuit was about speed. By the time the troop assembled, the enemy would be long gone. Still, discipline training needs to move up the list. A slack army has no fighting power, can't even guard a basic territory. Ashna pulled me onto the great wolf. With the mini-map, the odds of ambush dropped greatly. The wolf's back was steadier than a horse's, its jagged scales folding flat of their own accord, seamless and unpoking. Move out. We tore into the gray fog, the surroundings blurring fast, wind howling past my ears, the wolf cavalry's speed astonishing. In barely 4 minutes, Ashna found the enemy in the corrupted woods. I see them. Ashna's red eyes glowed with magic light in the fog. The enemy was resting in a clearing. I envy how you can see through the fog. I've got nothing but black in front of me. After the contract, a lord is immune to the fog poison but can't see through the fog. Before me was only a white blur. What attacked the territory? A pack of little short ones, dwarves? But not so fat. Can we win? If not, we'll bring the guard up together. No problem, they're all ordinary life forms. Ashna's tone was breezy. Just roll over them. They haven't sensed us. I carefully drew my longsword and lowered my voice. Then let's wreck them. Aru, a wolf howl full of killing intent shattered the fog silence, answered by a chorus of panicked screams, and only then did a great cluster of red exclamation marks pop up on my mini-map. As I thought, non-corrupted creatures must turn hostile toward me before they trigger the alert. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. A string of javelins pierced the fog at us. The great wolf dodged at speed, a blur evading them all. The enemy can see us. Hiding in the fog is pointless. I lit a fog lamp, and my sight cleared at once. Around were shadow-casting tentacle vines and rotting corpses everywhere. The most striking thing, that pack of dwarves. More precisely, a swarm of big-nosed, sharp-fanged goblins, unlike ordinary goblins, with dead man's milky white pupils and ochre skin. The kidnapped female slave, dead of the fog poison crossing the gray fog and tormented besides, had a dense cluster of tumors growing on her corruption-ridden belly. One glance and I a sufferer of trypophobia, nearly lost it. Spotting humans, the gray goblins capered and jeered. They're immune to the gray fog. That's not good news. I understood at once. Gray goblins were a species the death fog's culling had let survive. Let one go, kill the rest. Ashna made no effort to hide her killing intent. Understood. Squelch. The great wolf appeared abruptly above the foremost goblin, gazing at the wretchedly dead slave, fury rising on her pretty face. Ashna's spear surged in speed, one thrust running the goblin through and flinging it like a torn rag, sinew and bone shattered. The goblins, over 30 of them, charged in a wave in ill-fitting armor like an ochre tide, jabbing rusty spears from all sides, some flinging themselves spread-eagle to drag riders from the mount, courting death. Before a chosen's terrifying might, ordinary goblins had no chance. Without even spewing fire, the great wolf bulldozed through the tide, Ashna's spear flicking out again and again, each thrust taking one life or several. Blood soaked into the mud, pooling in the hollows, wails rising on all sides. Paired with the North's signature grisly terrain, it was hell itself. Wog, the goblins, savaged, began to rout, but exposing their backs to highly mobile wolf cavalry was idiocy itself. Ashna didn't wipe them out at once. A wolf's fire breath would have ended it. She drew her saber and chased at a leisurely pace, and I even found openings to sweep my long sword across fleeing goblins, hacking them into chunks. Soon only one was left, and Ashna followed it at a distance. A creature full of terror tends not to think, more inclined to flee to its safest place. Plunging into a forest, the mini-map showed this had once been a cobbled road, busy with merchants and travelers 10 years ago, now without a trace, though a string of bones along the verge told me I was on the right track. A camp choked with corrupted briars in the dense woods was the best dwelling this goblin band could find. This goblin band called itself the Black Forest Tribe, descendants of the Beastman's expeditionary army. Back when the Beastman Emperor launched a campaign against the Humans' Gateway, the Holy Griffin Empire, the base humans seemed to have bargained with the Devil's power, triggering the death fog that slew every living thing in the whole North. By luck, the tenacious goblins adapted to corruption and evolved into gray fog goblins, their chief still dreaming of one day breaching the humans' walls. Hurried footsteps cut into his musings as an ochre goblin came stumbling in. "Chief, we found a human camp." The chief brightened. "By the beast god's grace, where are they?" The grin froze before he finished, for a great wolf over 2 meters tall already stood proud in his view. "Dog crap. You led the enemy here." The camp held over 100 goblins, but weaker in fighting force than the earlier 30. A couple of glances, and I had the measure of it. "What do they eat?" "Corrupted plants." Now wasn't the time to study. I waved a hand. "Burn it all to ash, daring to attack my subjects. They're tired of living." This was no ordinary goblin. A heavy fist was called for. The great wolf's throat scales spewed vast steam, heat slamming into the camp like a burst floodgate dam. The surrounding corrupted plants instantly dried to husks. The goblins fared worse, swept into the flames and twisted into knots, the rest breaking and scattering. The fire pillars swept back and forth through the camp, goblin after goblin igniting and wailing, more reduced to pitch-black ash outright, the survivors hurling javelins and stones in futile defiance. Wahaha! The chief led 7 or 8 diehards in a spear charge. Whiff! The foremost goblin dropped without a sound, guts and organs spilling from a gaping belly wound. The arrow that killed it sunk into the boulder behind, its fletching still quivering. Ashna couldn't be bothered to direct the wolf, drawing and loosing fast herself, and the charging goblins were all shot dead in flashes of silver. Soon every goblin in the camp was wiped out, the earth baked and cracked, strewn with gray-white ash. These goblins have armor. They certainly didn't forge it themselves, so there may be something worth exploring nearby. Pity the mini-map didn't mark supplies. I picked up a rusted iron shard. Looks like royal gear. Pity it's rotted to this. No scrap dealer would take it. The fine gardenia flower pattern on it was faintly legible as a royal pauldron, worn as a helmet on a goblin's head. This armor's rusted to slag, worthless. There were no antiques in this era. "My lord, I guess there's a nest nearby. It's strange there are no young in the territory." "Search carefully. Loot is secondary. This goblin band must be wiped out clean. My expression turned grave. Pull weeds but not the roots, and the spring wind blows them back. I didn't want to leave a band of monsters that hated me. Ashna cocked her head. She sensed my unusual wariness toward goblins. After a careful search, sure enough, in a nearby earthen burrow not far off, we found the goblin young. I tore away the briars blocking it and bent down to crawl in. A small mouth, a roomy interior, piled with rotted armor and weapons, the reek of rust and filth sharp in the nose. Luckily, I could ignore it by now, the stench of corruption being no better. Wah, wah, wah. A clutch of weasel-sized young huddled in a ball, a good 100-odd at least. Had I not found them, a month would have restored the tribe's strength. Beside the young were two penned, deformed does. They are mothers, beyond doubt. Goblins have no females and can only breed with other creatures, and breed fast. A fog-immune species? I went to look, then sagged in disappointment at the cluster of mouths and eyes on the does' backs. Corrupted creatures after all, just the harmless kind. Ashna stifled a laugh. These odd goblins are rare. You don't shrug off the fog so easily. True, or the Empire would have reclaimed the North long ago. Something's off. These goblins can already breed using corrupted creatures? I sucked in a cold breath. Corrupted creatures were everywhere, and if goblins caught a mass of breeding beasts, they'd pose a grave threat to Nightfall. I'll have to keep an eye on goblins from now on. Ashna drew her saber. The dragon wolf was too big to squeeze in, so she'd act herself. Let's do it together, faster that way. I picked a rusted nailhead mace off the ground, and we finished off every one of the young and the two corrupted does, ending the hidden danger. Tallying the loot, a cave of junk armor, costly to haul and useless, left behind, but a locked ironwood chest caught the eye. See a key? I looked around. Of course, my lord. Ashna gave a delicate tug and ripped lock and corrupted moss off together. Fine, you're amazing. I opened the chest slowly, wary, praying it wasn't a mimic. The first things to meet my eye were two banners, a faded, colorless griffin banner, and another I didn't recognize, a strange emblem of an eye and a hexagram, like some noble house's flag. Beneath the banners lay sealed, slender round wooden cylinders. Prying off a cap revealed rolled parchment. Ashna's eyes lit, her wolf ears perked. Feels like we found something interesting, a sealed royal secret, or a noble's hidden treasure? From the griffin banner and royal armor, this was gear left by the royal army. I tipped out a scroll and, at the flame emblem on it, felt a flicker of familiarity. One glance and Ashna's eyes narrowed in disappointment. I sensed magic flowing. This isn't a treasure map. Sure enough, unrolled, it was full of unreadable symbols, a magic scroll. No wonder it looked familiar. My younger sister went to the Mage Academy and brought home magic scrolls to show off, this very style. So saying, my itching hand aimed at the corrupted does corpses and yanked the scroll open. Whoosh! A great gout of flames surged from the scroll, igniting the two corpses, burning them with a sizzle. But that was it. A used scroll lost its magic luster and turned to plain waste paper. No flashy effects, nothing like the Dragon Wolf's world-ending ghost fire. I felt like I'd watched a fire-breathing circus act. I think I just wasted 10 gold. Realizing it belatedly, I broke into a sweat. A magic scroll's damage was low, but a first-rank one ran about 15 gold on the market, an antique grade at least 10, not cheap at all. Ashna smiled warmly. How is it a waste? We learned its power. Like you said, practice yields true knowledge. Besides, it was my first time seeing one, very interesting. The girl was thoughtful, giving me an out. I only mentioned it in passing. Nice of you to remember. Infected by her positivity, I laughed and patted her head. The chest held 24 magic scrolls, minus the one spent. They'd fetch an estimated 230 gold, a rich haul. Picking up trash was rather fun, a stroll out, and a fortune made. Given the North's special environment, adventurers who dared go deep were vanishingly rare, so plenty of good things lay preserved. Back at the territory, everyone breathed a sigh of relief at seeing me unharmed. If the Lord came to grief, they'd be dead of the fog poison that very day. Besides, I was an excellent lord, and they hoped I'd reign forever, half a bellyful being a fairy's life to them. It's a goblin's head, the well-traveled freedman Dogpaw exclaimed. I've seen these filthy little things in the big cities. They breed fast. Right, it was them who attacked the territory. I tossed the goblin head on the ground and wiped my hands on a handkerchief. We've avenged the dead. May they return to the goddess's embrace. Long live the Lord. Thank you, my lord. The slaves wept with gratitude. Having one's right to life respected felt wonderful. No need to fear being killed by monsters at night. Though I acted not from any notion of human rights, but to clear threats and keep the slaves working, that didn't dampen their gratitude. An ordinary lord cared nothing for slaves' lives, fretting only over whether to have apple compote or cherry compote that night. Dismissed, go rest. Goblins dealt with. Another important matter struck me. The guards had performed badly during the goblin raid the night before. Those on patrol hid and slept. Those resting treated it as none of their concern, and if not for Croc waking a few, they wouldn't have stirred even if the whole territory were slaughtered. Without stronger military force, I can't even sleep easy. Ashna alone couldn't watch over the whole territory. I finished my planning, noted it in script only I could read, and lay down on the bed, the broken floor and rotten window instantly creaking, foul wind blowing in through gaps in the brick. I really must repair this house soon. In despair, I covered my ears and buried my head under the quilt. Only the quilt still held the scent of civilized society. The next day, after blueberry jam bread, I assembled all the soldiers, including the demi-human cavalry, who couldn't yet ride. Stand up straight. I barked sternly. The guards knew they'd done poorly the night before and shrank their necks in fear, some nearly wetting themselves, thinking they faced the gallows, not daring to make a sound, stealing glances at my face. I'd meant to drag the derelict ones out for 30 lashes in public, but seeing how many were sallow and gaunt, ribs showing, swaying as if to topple under the mere weight of armor, I gave it up. Never mind 30 lashes, 10 would whip them back into the womb, and even surviving they'd be bettered for months, with precious potions spent to save them. The loss would be mine, and most importantly, beating them to death would leave even fewer suitable recruits. I rubbed my brow and consoled myself. A guard got 2 fist-sized black loaves a day, no wages, no freedom, no wife. In their shoes, I wouldn't put my back into it either. Last night's patrol guards run 6 laps of the territory. Those who didn't turn out to muster run 3. This is punishment. Don't think to slack off. Phew. The guards relaxed, more than a few laughing. They didn't grasp why the Lord was so keen on running, but compared to a whipping that could plow bloody furrows, running was bliss. I love running. One guard tossed down his weapon and started shedding armor with a grin. Hold on. Put your leather armor on first, and everyone carries a weapon. I stressed, and before they could despair, added in a tempting tone, anyone done before noon gets a slice of smoked meat. Smoked meat? Is it a holiday today, our beloved Lord? The grumbling in their bellies instantly became farts, and the guards changed into leather armor, shouldered weapons, and ran like madmen, the commotion drawing repeated sidelong glances from the slaves working the fields. The remaining dozen-odd traded looks, drooling at the thought of smoked meat too, until Lynx finally worked up the nerve to ask carefully, "And us? We can run too." I swept a glance over them. Those who stayed were the guard elite, many having slain over 10 corpses, and raised a brow. "You don't need to run. Last night you were among the few who turned out to muster, so the smoked meat is yours by right. I have a new training program for you, called Standing at Attention. Do it well, and there's a bonus egg." Gulp, at egg, another wave of swallowing. Last time eggs were handed out, many gulped them down barely chewing, choking till their eyes rolled. Food scarcity had left them craving protein, savoring it even in dreams. They'd thought the perk wouldn't recur, never expecting it so soon. It's simple, follow me. I demonstrated the military stance once and patiently corrected each man. In these elite guards, I placed no small hope. The framework of my future army would likely be built on them. Done. I had the manservant bring a chair and took out an hourglass to time them. Hold half an hour and the egg is yours. I wore a devil's grin. Hammer awkwardly stuck out his rear, straightened as best he could, hands at his hips, feet splayed at an angle. This must be the kind of farce nobles love to watch, Hammer muttered inwardly. But for an egg, it's worth it. What work could be more tiring than hauling bricks and mining? He soon learned the terror of standing at attention, Nightfall's fields, just purified and not fully recovered, were soft and mushy as if freshly rained on, and he couldn't even stand steady. To an onlooker, it wasn't the land's fault. The men were trembling, legs gone soft as noodles. The guards realized standing was no easy thing, the numb soreness as painful as hauling heavy loads all day. Hammer broke into a cold sweat, gritting his teeth, chanting silently, "For the egg." Several guards were chanting it, swaying yet holding on through clenched teeth. The corner of my mouth lifted as I glanced at the hourglass. Indeed, material incentives work wonders. I leisurely finished a cup of black tea before declaring a rest, and the men slumped down in a heap like so much mud, relieved. "My lord, a stroke of genius. That's exactly how to treat them." Cow, done counting the seller's casks, came over with ink still wet paper, and seeing me torment the guards, took it that I'd grasped the key to nobility, not treating people as people, and was greatly consoled. "Oh, you understand the power of discipline too." I was startled, even straightening my posture. The meaning behind standing at attention was not something a medieval man could casually grasp. Cow rubbed his nose. "Discipline? I mean, dealing with slaves, you should torment them in varied ways, so they stay obedient." Never mind then." Greatly let down, I slumped lazily back against the chair back. "This isn't torment, it's training. They did well, and I've decided to give them an extra egg at noon." "An egg? For slaves again?" Cow was thunderstruck. "My lord, this is the second time you've done something so absurd. Slaves deserve the whip, not eggs." Giving slaves eggs pained Cow to no end. He'd swear it was an outrageous thing in the whole empire, a spendthrift act even the capital's most dissolute young rakes wouldn't commit. Seeing him tug his collar for air in his frustration, I consoled him with amusement. "This is the cursed land. We can't follow the rules like ordinary places. Every rule here will be brand new. You'll get used to it. By the way, how's the wine count coming?" "That's exactly what I came for." "On to business," he reported excitedly. "By standard sherry cask. Barley ale, 3 casks. Mead, 7 casks. Olive wine, 7 casks. Black pearl wine, 24 casks. And we also found a precious sparkling wine. Champagne, that is, 1 cask." The first 3 were commoners' drinks. The valuable one was the wine. Far better than I expected. I rose and paced, too excited to sit. The main thing now is to liquidate it all. Only as gold coins will I rest easy. If a monster slipped in and wrecked it, the gold would be lost. "Cow, draw off some slaves and load 10 days' rations for 40 people plus horse fodder. You handle the gaps. I'm going to Maple City myself to call on the local noble and find a market for the wine." "Isn't that too risky? The death fog is no joke. We can hardly count on last time's luck." "My lord, just send the chosen to lead it." Cow glanced around stealthily, relaxing only after confirming Ishna wasn't there. He didn't like that fearsome demi-human one bit. "Besides, we've only just arrived. Everyone needs your leadership." I sighed helplessly. It was riskier for me not to go. If Ishna fell, I couldn't hold the grand winery at all. Without the mini-map, she'd 100% run headlong into a great corpse tide. "It's an order, just carry it out." I turned my face away, not bothering to explain. Cow was one of only 2 literate people in the territory, but that didn't make him an administrative talent. Send the chosen to trade, and wouldn't that announce to the whole empire? Field, an unfavored, friendless little baron, possesses a precious chosen? No matter what, I couldn't lose Ishna, nor expose her to outsiders. What are those 2 up to?" I noticed 2 female slaves murmuring to each other as they walked toward the territory's edge. Maybe women's little secrets or gossip. A plot was unlikely. Without a fog lamp, you couldn't get out unless you awakened as a chosen. Probably off to goof off. I'm quite the expert at goofing off. 2 of them, different races even. So demi-humans and humans can be friends after all. I nodded, gratified, wondering if I could hold the pair up as a model, and quietly followed. The next moment I regretted it. The 2 of them were squatting at the roadside, relieving themselves in the open. My pupils quaked. Is there no law and order here? Is that strange? Cow rubbed his nose, not even frowning, long inured to it. Lowborn rabble are filthy that way. In the Holy Griffin Empire and across the whole continent, roads, streets, and stairwells were strewn with excrement, flies swarming, rats roaming free. Even the maids who served me would secretly relieve themselves in a corner of the room, because outside was dark and frightening. Busy with the territory before, I forgot about this. I pressed my temples to lower my blood pressure, suddenly recalling that the medieval era's chaotic sanitation had even triggered massive plagues like the Black Death. I'd always traveled by horse, and the tall mount had kept me from noticing the dung within my own territory. As a modern man, I would absolutely not permit such squalor in my domain. Filthy sanitary conditions breed germs and cause plagues. Cow was baffled. Dung? And what are germs? Cow, I'm issuing an important law. From now on, no one may relieve themselves in public places. Excrement must be collected and dumped in a dedicated pit. I said with hands behind my back. Have everyone remember, offenders get 3 warnings, then a fine. A slave 1 copper. A free citizen 3 copper. A fine. Cow's eyes instantly lit. You truly are an economic genius. It's just a fine. What's that got to do with economics? Many lords already levy breathing taxes and blinking taxes, but a relieving oneself fine is your original creation. Push it out, and there's a great daily income. Cow was overjoyed. The wasted egg affair had nagged at him, but seeing that my talent for extortionate taxation was as fine as my talent for spending recklessly, he set his heart at ease. It seemed Nightfall's finances could hold out a good long while. You are the very model of a noble. He bowed respectfully. I waved him off, speechless. Go carry it out. Then I went on training the guards. Only at noon, when Ishna returned to the territory, did I let the howling, pleading guards off to eat, and summoned her, just back. Did the granary trip go smoothly? I opened the mini-map. The skull markers at the granary's location were all wiped clean, beautifully clear. Thanks to you, the clearing went very smoothly. The only pity is the granary held nothing of value. The wheat was all corrupted, and the granary had mostly collapsed. She produced a sample bag of wheat. As expected, go rest first. Several battles had taught me. Pairing ordinary soldiers with Ishna only made things harder for her. So I planned to split forces in 2. Ishna, with her overwhelming might and mobility, would sortie off into clear gathered corpse swarms. The guards would focus on training, clearing scattered small bands the rest of the time. I'd oversee training and watch over Ishna's recovery. Everyone with a clear division of labor. And so I spent a week in Nightfall, the territory extending 5,000 square meters eastward. Less than a football field, but a decent result. Expanding the area under real control was hard. First, disperse the local fog with a fog-dispelling lamp. Then have the guards kill the corpses. The slaves clear every trace of corruption, vegetation, small animals. Only then could my lord ability permanently shelter that ground, and only if no new corrupted creatures invaded. I'd already worked out the pattern. Hey, you fool. Careful lifting that cask. Keep being so reckless, and I'll kiss your backside hard with my boot. Cow's angry bellow came from downstairs. Time to head for High Castle Province. I set down the quill and stretched, and the maid scissors promptly, obediently, handed me my coat. Nightfall had no food source of its own. Consuming supplies fast, getting food from the fields would likely take ages, so food had to be imported by trade. Downstairs I met the guard Captain Lynx, who stood ramrod straight with his guards, crooked and ragged in their lines still, but I was well pleased. The daily extra rations hadn't been for nothing. The guards at least no longer so skeletal. My lord, we wish to be your shield. Lynx said loudly, full of reverence for me, his merciful lord. Take us with you. Huh, you've always been my shield, but now I need you to protect the territory. I patted his shoulder. For this trip, I took only Hammer and 2 others as guards, but brought all of Ishna and her raiding cavalry. 1 chosen plus 20 cavalry was already a fine escort. After carefully going over the defensive arrangements, I turned to leave. The Lord is the true noble, a merciful lord with a valiant, martial spirit. Lynx sighed. An ordinary lord would never risk the death fog repeatedly. I'm proud to defend the lord and his property. The guard beside him nodded. The steward Cow, by contrast, was full of worry and prayed silently. The manservant Croc consoled him. Don't fret. Lady Ishna is strong, and the winter goddess will watch over the lord. Cow rolled his eyes peevishly. What do you know? What I worry about is what happens once the lord reaches Maple City. Maple City has a chosen too. But we're going to trade, not to fight. Surely it won't come to blows. Croc, browbeaten, lowered his voice considerably. And with the Lord's personal charm, I trust there'll be no trouble. Field's conduct these past days had won the servant's utter devotion. That's why you're only a manservant, Croc. You've much to learn. Cow showed off smugly. Maple City's official faith is the god of love and union, and their chosen, the peerless dancer, has bewitched countless nobles into willingly offering up all their wealth. If the local lord has her work her divine power on Lord Field, then with the Lord's self-control, surely. Cough. I'll say no more. In Cow's view, Field's trip was essentially a hunt for pleasure, and he might well end up forgetting to come home. Croc fell silent, able only to pray quietly that his beloved lord wouldn't be tainted by wickedness. Wait, did I run my mouth again? Cow suddenly felt the wrongness. If the lord or Ashna learned of this talk, he'd likely go from steward to stable hand on the spot, or worse. Eyeing Croc's harmless look, he broke into a sweat, beginning to worry the boy would inform. In truth, I didn't want to make the longer trek to Maple Territory either, but Baron Bull's fool son was probably still keeping the fortress gate shut, and I'd plundered Bull Territory besides. I didn't want to gamble. Maple City's Baron was a great magnate, grown fat off the cheap potions refined from his land's magic plants, and I trusted Black Pearl wine would fetch a good price. My lord, must you really go yourself? Ashna, watching me polish my longsword over and over, sighed helplessly. Leave it to me. The road is too dangerous. I'll guard your property with my life. That's exactly what worries me. Who asked you to guard gold with your life? Gold can't buy a chosen. I patted her head, drawing a blush. Besides, I must call on Baron Maple in person. From now on, Nightfall's products will have to be absorbed by that deep-pocketed noble. There was another reason I didn't mention. I could detect surrounding monsters. Without me along, the caravan would slam into corpse tides again and again. I lit a fog-dispelling lamp and hung it on the cart, and the caravan set off. Along came Ashna, the raiding cavalry, 3 guards, 20 slaves to haul goods, and the maid's scissors to see to my needs. Leaving the grand winery, everyone seemed to plunge straight into hell, twisted plants and ghostly shapes everywhere. The slaves looked about in fear, and I'd given them spears for self-defense regardless. This road's wretched. The corrupted road surface sprouted little tentacles that dragged at the cart. I'll have to build roads when I get the chance. Best to open a trade route linking Nightfall straight to Maple Territory. The words barely landed when a great mass of red skull markers closed in fast. Careful, here they come. I drew a deep breath. Aru, Ashna's great wolf, charged ahead roaring, her spears sweeping and smashing, raising a rain of blood, corpses falling like cut wheat. Then it tossed its head and spewed a sweep of ghost blue flame, vaporizing a great swath of corpses. The other cavalry charged in with drawn sabers and leveled spears. Demi-humans are born cavalry, and short training notwithstanding, they'd grasped the essence. For Lord Field, charge! The cavalry rolled over them, the red markers on the mini-map vanishing fast, more closing in. Come on, come on! I was full of fight, and drew my sword with a ring. Maple Fortress was likewise an imperial border fortress, its defenses formidable, not only ballistae and catapults, but a great many mage towers besides, magic crystals floating everywhere in the distance. Crossing the fortress gate, the view opened up. No more unbroken gray fog, but a bright, clear world. Those knights came out of the fog, soldiers with the local accent pointed at the black-cloaked cavalry. Even the warhorses were wrapped in black, deeply eerie. Adventurers, or an imperial survey corps. Look, they're covered in corrupted creatures' foul blood. Close the gate in time. Don't let the fog monsters follow them in. The officer cleared his throat. Welcome to Maple Territory. Thank you. Getting in so easily. I'd even prepared a purse of toll money and never used it. I expected to be hassled. The pack horses hauled 10 casks of Black Pearl wine plus a crate of magic scrolls. Sell them now, or use them to wipe my backside. If I could open a trade route, I wouldn't have to make the trip myself. The whole way I dodged countless great corpse tides and wiped out several small ones at nearly no cost. Only half a cart of grain tumbled into a pit. This too was thanks to Ashna's bloody fighting. Exhausted now, wrapped in a black cloak, she curled in the cart fast asleep, the dragon wolf recalled, serving for now only as a maid. Demi-humans were too conspicuous. Every demi-human seen in the Empire was a slave. So to avoid drawing notice, I had them all wear cloaks to hide their identities. A day west of the fortress was Maple City, a pretty city built into the mountainside, likewise a flower on the Empire's rotting bough. Before I even entered the city, I felt its extravagance. A laughable wall only 3 meters high, yet hung all over with fresh flowers and silk, with hardly any guards. A scattered few clustered together swigging wine, scanning passers-by with greedy, mocking eyes. The Mage Tower and Adventurers Guild in the distance, by contrast, were eye-catching. Caravans and travelers everywhere, peddlers hawking wine, tobacco, and snacks before one even entered. Maple City had little defensive force, yet was a top-tier money pit. The whole empire knew it lay undefended, open for the taking, whether of scholarly magic or of gold. There simply wasn't much defense. Pleasure quarters, gambling and arenas, fine food and wine, all on offer. The only unwelcome guests were the empty-pocketed. A great heap of vagrants squatted at the city gate, many of them ruined, landless nobles who'd lost everything here and been tossed out. So prosperous. Hammer scraped a single word from his parched vocabulary. Indeed, but nightfall will be more prosperous still one day. I was brimming with confidence. Having seen the great cities of my past life, Maple City was at most a themed scenic spot to me. I handed over my proof of identity and the entry fee and breezed in. The city was everywhere a din of pleasure houses touting for custom, the soldiers watching red-faced and drooling. Absurd, no wonder Maple City's reputation is so loud. Never mind my men. Even across 2 lifetimes it was my first time seeing such a scene. The rot in the air made me uncomfortable too. I'd long heard Maple City was decadent, but never imagined this much spectacle the moment I walked in. Truly a place the love god had set his eye on. Ahem, no thanks. I waved a hand and quickened my pace. My lord, this place is fairly crawling with devils. I'd sooner face the revolting, corrupted creatures. The maid's scissors flushed with embarrassment. Ashna had crawled out of the cart too, shooting me a sullen glance. My lord, do you wish to go have your fun first? We can wait for you. Don't be so suspicious of me. I'm not that sort of man. I patted the restless, drooling, gawking Hammer and joked. Hammer, how much have you saved up? In Nightfall, slaves could hold private property, a special grant from me, but could only save it, with nowhere to spend. Nightfall didn't even have a tavern. The guards saved fastest of all, a silver per corpse slang. Outside the north such pay would be fought over tooth and nail. 47 silver coins. Hammer answered proudly. Save it for now. This won't be the last trip to Maple City. Once you're free citizens, come here to enjoy yourselves. I preferred to dangle goals before them, driving them to generate value. Ashna, you and the cavalry buy something to eat and fill your bellies, then rest at the coaching inn. I'm off to call on the noble here. Maple Manor was one of the Empire's rare noble estates built in the city's bustling downtown. Baron Simon Maple loved the liveliness, fearing neither clamor nor assassination. I presented my card and waited a while at the gate. A scantily clad maid bowed to me. Handsome Baron Field, I'm to bring you into the manor. Your caravan. Please use the side door. Only honored noble blood may use the main gate. I pressed my temples. This Simon truly made not the slightest effort to conceal his tastes. Lead on, then. The maid led me, swaying her hips, through a winding route into a palatial building. The moment I entered, the pervading steam and haze choked me twice, nearly making me think I was back in the north reaching for a fog lamp. Inside was a hot spring revelry, a money pit scene. One glance, and my blood pressure rose, not from any lewd thought, but from dread of running into Baron Maple's womenfolk, which would be disastrous. I turned to leave when a thick, faintly comical voice came. Hi, Baron Field. No need to be shy. These are all serving girls here to entertain you. Holy crap, this guy knows how to lay it on. But I stayed unmoved. Actually fool around with a serving girl and sire a child. And by imperial law the inheritance went to the child in the girl's belly, and Simon could later send assassins for me, leaving Nightfall and my property under Maple Territory's joint rule. The guide maid sidled up wickedly to undo my clothes. I dodged awkwardly, straightened my collar, and said gravely, Thank you for the kindness, Baron Simon, but I've come to call on you and discuss a piece of business. I knew the peerless dancer's famous name well, of course, and had no wish to be bewitched into forgetting home and wrung dry into the gutter. Besides, used to seeing nation-toppling chosen beauties, I had no interest in these common painted faces. Your father was a valiant, fearless noble, House Ross's blood rose chosen, who left a legend in the empire. Simon delivered some pleasantries. In truth, we had no connection at all. The old count's first chosen had died long ago in the war with the elves. I greatly admire his courage. Simon was a chalk-white short fatty, his face crowded with freckles and tumors, reclining in a serving girl's arms. Having finished a cherry, he spat the pit off to the side with a tay. Decadence itself, though I wasn't surprised. Many nobles were like this. Having everything they wanted from childhood, their pleasure threshold raised so high that only ever more intense stimulation could please them. As long as he didn't cross me, I didn't care. I sat down in a chair and traded courtesies too. You're the most adept lord at running a territory I've ever seen. Maple City's prosperity is unprecedented. Huh, I like your honesty. The two of us, upholding noble spirit, flattered each other a good while. Truly, Field, you've inherited the family's valor and wisdom. Few can break into the cursed land and come out safe. Simon labored upright and waved the serving girls off, which meant the small talk was over. Let's talk in the reception room. Perhaps you fancy elves or mermaids. Pity I've none on hand at the moment. The last batch were bought by another noble and made into dishes. A wave of revulsion hit me, but my face stayed blank. You even have mermaids? Of course. Next time I'll bring you to a fun underground banquet to satisfy your every fetish. I had no interest in underground banquets, but as the seller, I naturally had to flatter. Huh. Then I have something to look forward to. Then I marveled in a tone of relief. To come out of nightfall alive, I owe it to my soldiers and the goddess's protection. Luck stands with me for now. I love dealing with lucky people. Simon clapped. In the reception room, my goods had been inspected and delivered, the sherry casks visible just outside the door. And these are, Hammer, take out the monster and show Baron Simon. I didn't rush to sell the wine. First, I had a guard bring in a skull. The skull of the Grand Winery's mutated rat, the head alone the size of a grown man's torso, with horns and razor fangs, like a hellish demon. This was the first extraordinary monster I met in Nightfall, a corrupted giant rat demon. Its fur burned with purple devil flame. Its claws could easily split heavy scale armor, and one breath from its maw triggered a fiend's shriek. My vanguard lost 7 men to its demon fire at the first exchange. All knights painstakingly cultivated by House Ross, reduced in the end to a heap of charred corpses. HSS, Simon stroked his chin. Maple Fortress has never met a rat demon. They're truly dangerous. Nobles cared little for facts, prizing prestige and a bold front more. I raised the skull, wore a look of lingering fear, and spun a fairy tale. This monster broke through my ranks 7 times in and 7 times out, none lasting a single bout under its claws, no countering it. Can you grasp that despair? I could only pray for a miracle. At the edge of life and death, the goddess answered. A bolt of heaven's might struck its head, and only then did my knights find the chance to slay it. Thank the goddess. Simon listened agape, tracing the love god's prayer sign over his chest. The North is a byword for hell. The church and the royal house have campaigned there repeatedly without success. Your coming back alive is itself a miracle. Yes, but for the empire's peace and for precious treasures, I gladly take the risk. I tug my collar for air. Precious treasures especially, like a decade-extinct vintage, black pearl wine. This greedy rat demon was a discerning, clever fiend too, guarding this batch of vintage wine with its life. Heavens, black pearl wine, the royal banquet wine of 10 years ago. Simon's eyes blazed. Quick, let me see the vintage. Nobles have no resistance to precious things. In truth, getting the wine hadn't been hard, but with a little added difficulty in the telling, both price and prestige climbed a notch. The cask cap pried open, rich fragrance filled the room, and Simon tasted it eagerly, intoxicated. That's the taste. My father treasured a single bottle, and only on his birthday last year let me drink a cup. That velvet smooth mouth feel, My father will be sick with envy. I smiled. Noble wine deserves a noble drinker. Just as modern people, too, prefer to buy a product with a story. I feel I found a kindred spirit. I'll buy this wine. Simon didn't stand on ceremony, calling a servant over to murmur a few words. One moment, I must discuss the price with my advisor. This is no small deal. By all means. Simon conferred a while, then offered 500 gold per cask, exactly my startup capital for Nightfall. A standard sherry cask is about 500 liters. A noble's wine usually runs 25 copper a cup, an ordinary whole cask about 26 gold 41 silver. At auction, Extinct Black Pearl could fetch 20 times that, around 550 gold, but the auction house takes a 10% cut plus goods tax, leaving 400 gold at most. Selling it directly in bulk to a noble, tax-free, 500 gold a cask was already extremely generous. Friend, could you sell me that rat monster skull? 20 gold. I'd like to hang this valiant trophy in my collection room. Of course. I put on a pained expression while stifling a laugh. That lousy rat had lasted under 3 minutes before Ishna and was worthless to me. A noble station needs fine collectibles to set it off, and this one even carries the heaven's might of a miracle. One trade run earned 5,020 gold, a haul you could only call terrifying. But I wasn't fool enough to carry it all away. Instead, I paid 30 gold to deposit 3,000 gold in Maple City's royal established Great Vault. 1. To show sincerity. 2. To avoid being robbed by bandits the moment I left. I knew full well, lavish as Simon seemed now, who knew how much it pained him in private, he might already be scheming to claw the money back. Money earned in Maple City was spent in Maple City. Don't dream of carrying a single coin home. Barrenfield, a pleasure doing business with you. The serving girls have drawn a hot bath. As expected, having spent a great sum, Simon couldn't hold it together, jiggling his fat as he affectionately took my arm. I'll wager you've never touched a lofty chosen. I muttered inwardly, my own chosen is awfully cute. Ahem, indeed not. Chosen are too precious, too few. I played along. Maple territory has a rare treasure. Come, let me show you. Sure enough, spending 5,000 gold made Simon eager to earn it back. My mouth twitched. The rare treasure he meant wouldn't happen to be that dancer with the unsavory reputation? Ahem, next time. I awkwardly wiped a cold sweat and changed the subject. Baron Simon, does Maple City sell great wolves? I want to buy a large batch. Great wolves? Those rare creatures only appeared in the nomadic Khanate. Hard to find. Simon answered as he tugged me upstairs. My physique far outmatched his. This sickly, wine and women-hollowed noble I shook off with a few tugs, then backed off 2 steps and coughed to ease the awkwardness. The north is all corrupted plants and writhing tentacles. Horse hooves get snagged easily, so I need a mount better suited to complex terrain. And great wolves are striking. They'd become a symbol of my valor. I'll have my caravans keep an eye out. No one refuses gold. Even cubs will do. I guarantee a price that'll satisfy you. Once Simon actually bought them, who but me would buy in bulk? I'd haggle just the same then. My lord's skill could invest 50 first-rank wolf cavalry in one go, but only with great wolves to do it. They'd be a powerful aid, and the dragon wolf's bloodline had to be preserved too, an incomparable treasure, like the royal house's griffins, which traced to the founding emperor's holy griffin. The treasures a chosen could leave behind weren't only divine artifacts. Animals, techniques, magic, and battle chi could all be put to use. I must return to the north and keep opening it up. I feel treasure and glory beckoning to me. I made a brief farewell and turned to go. Shortly after I left, Simon wore a pained look. Oh, my lovely gold, all of it leaving me. He headed for a guest room. Inside, a gauze-clad figure of bewitching bearing had waited a long while, her eyes oddly cool. I'd thought it would be the handsome Baron of Nightfall, the woman said coldly. Failed. Field's no womanizer. He prefers adventure, and stripping me of the gold that should have been mine. Simon, even mocked, didn't flare up, only said regretfully, had I known, I'd have sent you out from the start. Who'd have guessed he'd land a 5,000 gold order? Curse it, the North still had leftover treasures. Perhaps I should send someone to assassinate him. Huh, your stinginess again. Long-term business earns the most. He's even deposited gold to show sincerity. Now isn't the time to kill. And besides, it can't be done in Maple City. Simon sulked like a 200-pound child. Fine, you're right. Your greed scared him off. What a clever, sensible little boy. This chosen called the peerless dancer was the one who truly held power behind Simon, who'd built Maple City into its money pit. She swung her arm languidly, her eyes full of calculation. Didn't he deposit part of his gold with us? The dead aren't protected by royal law. With no witnesses left, we just swallow it. But this clever little boy, I really would like to meet him. She gathered her thoughts. Simon, have a servant tell him. 3 months from now, on the 15th, Maple City holds a masked underground ball. Tell him he must attend, and that we guarantee to satisfy his every taste. I did mention it in passing. Then send a formal invitation. Maple City's ball welcomes any person of value. She meant to take this discerning little baron with his secrets, man, gold, and the something behind that luck of his, and gather them all into her own game. Still, Simon spread his hands. I doubt he'll live that long. Luck won't always stand with him. No few chosen have fallen in the north. All the better, the woman said lazily. Didn't he deposit part of his gold with us? No witnesses, no proof. We just swallow it. In her heart, she reckoned on this clever, sensible little boy, reckoned that a man who could carry vintage wine out of the cursed land must have something hidden behind him, and that she would, by any means, grasp him in her palm. I walked out of Maple Manor, the sunlight easing my nerves. Phew, the money problem solved. Time to buy supplies, this time more food and livestock. Because of Nightfall's special environment, even decontaminated land had poor fertility and low farm yield. So I planned to build a pasture, raising mainly chickens, ducks, pigs, and cattle, whose dung could also enrich the soil. Prices differed in every imperial city. 1 copper bought a loaf in Golden Eagle City, but in the dirt-poor western mountains it bought only the smell of bread, the shopkeeper letting you have a sniff. Maple City's service industry flourished and it had no taste for war, so slaves were scarce. I could buy only some human slaves, mostly women and children, the price of able-bodied labor already triple a woman's. Grain and fodder were the bulk. Nightfall produced nothing, the whole territory living off me. Funny to say, at present it wasn't I who exploited my subjects, but my subjects who exploited me. Only with a modern man's eyes would anyone run such a loss-making venture. No other noble would. Before I buy, I need to recruit some management and administrative talent. I rubbed my brow. The whole territory has just 2 literate people. Cow's a middling administrator, and craftsmen are short. The grand winery needs repairs. I told the guard hammer, send the gold back to the inn first, then come with me to the tavern. A tavern was the medieval era's talent market, and one of the best-informed places too. Pushing into a Maple City tavern, all was raucous din, the tall and short, fat and thin clustered together bragging of glory and playing cards and finger games, everyone seemingly laughing freely. But those laughs were just masks worn on the face. Who knew how dejected they were once sober? In my black noble robe, fine steel sword at my hip, 3 guards behind me, my entrance startled the crowd into hush, taking me for someone come to arrest a fugitive. 3 barley alish. I tossed out a few silver coins as if conjuring them. Keep the rest. Hearing I wasn't here to make arrests, the tavern instantly returned to its clamor. My lord, thank you for your generosity. The barkeep beamed like a chrysanthemum and scooped up the silver. 3 barley alish were only 15 copper. I'd given far too much. Don't rush. I want to ask after some news. First, tell me the Empire's recent big happenings. I gifted the ale to Hammer and the others, having no taste for the coarse, sour barley brew. Heard of the Bull Territory armory theft? Count Nibelungen has begun an investigation, and the luckless Baron Bull is in for harsh punishment. I'm curious, who could silently haul off over 2,000 sets of armor? Only the devil, surely. 2,000 sets. I frowned. I'd found only about 500, hadn't I? Old Nibelungen had probably padded the figure to balance his own books on the sly. But that was good news. An honest report would mean he was dead set on finding the culprit, while padding it meant he too wanted a cut, and would likely just grab some bandits, kill them, and write it off. Nobles' games all circle their own interests. I smiled faintly. Good. Anything else? One more big thing. The Imperial Royal House had a 5th-rank divine artifact stolen, a heretic's war trophy called the Eye of Yearning, said to bewitch hearts and turn normal people into puppets. The heretics run rampant, tied to their Great Western Campaign. The Amethyst Empire, gateway to the rich inland sea, has had its capital besieged a month, its other cities all fallen. Anything else? That news didn't interest me. Hold up in nightfall. Theft or no theft was none of my concern. It wasn't me who stole it, and a fifth-rank artifact was beyond my reach anyway. The barkeep wiped a cup. That's all. I want to find some people to work for me. Have you channels? I didn't want to drink. The barkeep, catching on at once, said low. Pockface, a true desperado, 20 silver, who'd assassinate his own parents. Or the Mad Dog mercenaries, a pack of utter lunatics, costly, won't move for under 30 gold, but with rumors of murdering their employers, so mind yourself. I don't want assassins or mercenaries. I waved a hand, knowing he'd misread me. I need capable talent, people with practical skills like management, construction, herbalism, or crafts. That's unusual. Don't you go looking among other nobles' science? Nobles usually took knights or squires as managers. A squireship wasn't a lowly post, but a noble's exclusive Head Start channel. A family's second son goes to another lord to learn arms and knowledge and rub elbows. Let me think. There's one who can manage. The Warden Tate, who can read and write, though he's a stiff fool, refuses bribes and insists on justice, and got framed by a conspiracy of his subordinates and lost his job. Now he drinks alone, brooding. This one sounded all right. I nodded. There's also a horse hunter, Doom, a bold pervert who sneaked into a lord's back garden at night to cause trouble and wriggled out of the gallows by sophistry. Maybe you could make him a diplomatic advisor. I nearly flipped the table. What Nightfall lacked were people to work. As for diplomacy, you can't play alliances and intrigues with corpses, and I didn't need him stirring up midnight chaos. Tell me about Tate. I wiped a cold sweat. Having gathered the information, I came before the Warden Tate and sat down without ceremony. I'm Field, Lord of Nightfall. I need someone who understands management, can read and write, can keep slaves in line, and can sense which way the wind blows. I wonder if you're up to it. Tate was a bewhiskered middle-aged man, looking exceedingly steadfast. Reading and writing I can do, learned from an old monk as a child. The trouble is, I only know how to manage prisoners. At least there's common ground. I'll pay you far above market rate, triple your old wage. I'd have to live to spend it. I have a wife, daughter, and aged mother. The North is no place for people, an absolute land of death. Nightfall is dangerous, no question, but if you settle for your present lot, you may be in more danger. I spread my hands. I hear you're upright and incorruptible, that your law enforcement made many enemies, your colleagues dislike you, and the local underworld has surely readied its revenge, aimed at your family above all. They wouldn't dare. Tate's eyes went red, and he smashed his cup, beer splashing the floor. From your reaction, I know I guessed right. You know it in your heart, too. I'd struck his sore spot. Come, take a look at Nightfall. It may be a corruption-ridden hell, but compared to a hell steeped in decadence, it might be a touch better. One more thing. The North isn't an absolute deathland. At least I'm still alive. You've talked me into it. Tate slumped down, dejected, afraid the thugs would harm his wife and daughter. All I want now is to flee. Perhaps a remote, cursed land is my proper home. I tested his learning further, and after about a quarter-hour laughed and set a gold coin on the table. This is settling in money. Find me at the coaching inn outside the city before noon tomorrow. Tate was nearly blinded by the coin, not expecting this noble to part with a whole gold coin after a short chat. This is too much. It's my sincerity, don't disappoint me. All right. He wasted no more words and left at a brisk pace. My lord, I hear you're looking for talent. A woman sidled over. Yes. Do you have a recommendation? I picked it up. She rubbed her hands. Give me a silver coin and I guarantee information worth the price. I handed over the silver, keeping my distance. Miss, I come only for valuable information. Please be serious. I was a man who'd turned down the peerless dancer. I certainly wouldn't fall for this. The woman fidgeted uncomfortably, encountering the feeling of serious and gentleman for the first time. All right, my lord. I have an old friend, a carpenter named Greyhound. excellent at carpentry, who wants to try his luck elsewhere for money. Perhaps you could recruit him. Where is he? I stood up, excited. He went to the Merchants Association looking for work. Maple City's streets, like nightfalls, were strewn with rubbish and excrement, the stench dizzying. Not a single day had my nose been comfortable since coming to this world. I found the front desk of the Merchants Guild. I'm here for Greyhound. I hear he's looking for work, and there's a place for him in my territory. Oh, you're too late. He's already been recruited by Kiki, a merchant and economic advisor, to go to Fulon City and build stables for Lord Adrian Ross. Adrian Ross, my younger brother, the villain who killed the original sweetheart. The clerk paused after speaking and pointed behind me. My lord, Kiki's here. Pay enough gold, and perhaps you could buy that carpenter. I turned to see Kiki, his face full of terror. He was a fastidious merchant in a fine linen shirt and cowhide boots, his wool cloak alone worth 2 or 3 months eating and drinking for a commoner. You. Kiki, thinking he saw a ghost, grabbed his son beside him. Valkyrie above. Can you all see him? Didn't Field go to Nightfall? He's come back as a ghost. No need for such a fuss. I stepped up and raised a brow. I'm not dead yet, surprised? Shocked. Kiki was dumbstruck. In his mind, no one entered the North without an army and a chosen and lived. So from the moment Bull Territory confirmed I'd entered the North, House Ross had presumed me dead. They'd even cleared out my room for a guest room and held a morning banquet, singing and dancing late into the night. Damn, I must tell Lord Adrian. Kiki exclaimed under his breath, yet plastered on a hypocritical smile. Oh, thank the goddess for her protection. I'm so glad to see you safe and sound. Smooth words, and this old geezer didn't even offer a basic courtesy, perfunctory to the extreme. I'm glad to see you too, my brother's economic advisor. I didn't fault his rudeness. Kiki thumped his chest, kind and gentle as ever. What brings you to the Merchants Association? If I can help, I'll do so without hesitation, and I'm sure Lord Adrian would be glad to assist too. He thinks of you often. I nodded straight off. I need a carpenter. I hear you've recruited Greyhound. Since you're willing to help, you could let Greyhound go to me, or I'll buy him out. Kiki's mouth twitched. I was only being polite, and you took it seriously? I'm afraid that can't be done. Fulon City stables can't wait. Without them, the livestock industry suffers great losses, and surely you wouldn't want to see your brother's territory harmed. Fine then. I pouted in mock disappointment, aggrieved as a child, while sneering inside. Kiki nearly laughed. The same spineless waste, not changed a bit. Deference is a noble's virtue. You've always been a high-minded noble. Then you take priority. After all, I dote on my brother most. I shrugged, gave him a long look, and turned to leave. What a craven coward. The moment I left, Kiki's son Lance burst out laughing. Didn't even dare fight for one carpenter. Keep it down. He's a noble after all. Kiki too made nothing of me, jiggling his fat belly as he analyzed. Field probably never entered the North at all, likely snuck here to carouse. This must be reported to the Baron early. A living Field could carve off a big share of the estate. The old count was nearly wrung dry by the stepmother, the moment to divide the inheritance close at hand. As Adrian's economic advisor, the richer the Baron, the richer Kiki, and a little doctoring of the ledgers would skim enough to last him several lifetimes. But what if he really did enter the North and come out safe? Luck's a thing no one can predict. Then he's probably out shopping. Lance, send people to track his movements. I'll load the goods fast and leave tomorrow morning. Yes, father. Lance bared a sly smile. Elsewhere, I took out my shopping list. I need to buy slaves. Nightfall's far short of hands, plus magic items, cloth, and food. We lack everything. The money barely warm in hand. I was tossing it back into the fire. Hammer, indignant on my behalf, screwed up his courage to ask, My lord, what about the carpenter? Want me to give that old thing a beating and grab the man back? I've got it in hand. Let it play out a bit. I smiled, not wanting to dwell on it. First, let's go buy a fog-dispelling lamp. I came to the church. Anything that could levy taxes on royalty and nobles was naturally filthy rich. The four walls, all costly stained glass, glinting gold in the sunlight. I found the church's old priest. I need fog-dispelling lamps and purification potions. How much? Ahem. It's not a matter of money. It's called offering and atonement. A fog-dispelling lamp requires an offering of 25 gold. A purification potion 1 gold. Profiteering, sheer profiteering. By my tally, rapidly clearing 1 mu of farmland's corruption took 3 purification potions. A fog-dispelling lamp lasted only 25 days, and just staying in the territory purifying farmland burned over 20 gold a day. Purifying a well was worse, an estimated 80 potions before the water was safe to drink, and that without full-scale reclamation. Fine, I'll take it all. These special products only the church had. Even the royal house lacked the formula. The old priest's eyes lit up. Wait, I'm willing to offer more. A big-nosed man walked in and produced a gold voucher. I'll offer 10 gold more. Please let me have all the divine gifts. 20. I picked it up, expressionless. 21. 30. 31. Fine, it's yours. I conceded decisively, my mind racing. Was this fellow a plant come to make trouble? Whatever the case, I wouldn't take a loss. 30 gold was already a steep price, and I couldn't guarantee I'd stumble on black pearl wine again next time. Still, was the thing I wanted something you could just snatch away? Watching Big Nose carry off the goods, I handed a small purse of gold to a guard, whispered a few words, and went on shopping as if nothing had happened. Ha! The moment I rounded the corner, Big Nose wild laughter came from behind. Did you see his face? Funnier than a clown. Lance ran out of an alley, beaming. How does it feel to toy with a noble? Fantastic. I'll have it carved on my tombstone. Big Nose stood akimbo, smug, then a wave of unease. But he is a noble after all. Are we really fine? Of course we're fine. With Baron Adrian's protection, what's to fear? Field's famous for cowardice. When the Baron killed his sweetheart, didn't he just take it lying down? Huh, how amusing. The two japed nastily a while. Lance elbowed Big Nose. Let's keep toying with him, but we'll have to return the goods later. If my father learns I misappropriated this much gold, he'll surely kill me. I went to the Mage Guild to sell the scrolls. They were getting on in years, and any longer they'd be waste paper. An old-fashioned mage studied them carefully and said, "These old runes look to be 8 years old. Powerful, but time has worn off much of the magic. 100 gold for the lot." Only 100? With big money in hand I scoffed. One costs 15 gold to buy. There are 23 here. Under 200, no deal. Don't be hasty. These are too ancient. Magic is best fresh. Time only erodes the magic, and the runes can't keep up with the age. Quite scientific. I'd thought magic was like in fantasy novels, the older the stronger. In this world, magic's turnover only weeded out the old, like no one wanting to use an abacus once there were computers. 150, that's my floor. Deal, let's be friends. This is a spellbook? Awfully expensive. I took a copy of Flame Vestments off the counter, priced at 320 gold. That's a rare instant mastery spell, single use. The mage tapped the book. Drip blood into the groove, and you master it automatically. No need to read the runes. That's simple. Spells exist to understand nature and commune with its rules. The simpler the better, of course. But mastering it is useless without magic to cast it. I hadn't a shred of magic. The whole of Nightfall's extraordinary power was a schna, and hers was divine power, so a spellbook was no use. Hand me this one, Feathered Beast Vision. I'd glanced at the figures sidling up, a faint, imperceptible smile rising at my mouth. An interesting choice. Cast it on a bird, and you gain the bird's sight. 200 gold. I'll take it. I'm quite interested in flight. I moved decisively to pay. I bid 201 gold. Big Nose pushed in again. This time the mage ignored him, saying flatly, "This gentleman was first." I gave him a mental thumbs up. 10 gold more, this one's mine. Big Nose grew frantic. The mage turned, caught my furious winking, and cleverly played along. Fine, but pay right now. I instantly put on an anxious face. As if you could pay. Big Nose slapped down a Merchants Association voucher, guaranteed by Baron Adrian's deposit. Then hand me illuminating Aurora. I wore a dark look. I'll still bid 1 gold more. The two played off each other, and soon Big Nose had run up 1,300 gold against Adrian's deposit. Now it was his turn to sweat. Just then the guard I'd sent earlier returned. Fine, you win. I snorted a laugh and stepped out, turning to say, "Congratulations, enjoy yourself." The moment I was out the door, return it all. The spell books are too expensive. Big Nose wiped a cold sweat. The 2,000 gold limit had nearly buckled. The mage's face darkened. Are you toying with me? I'm Maple City's chief mage. Snatching an order from a noble customer, then demanding a refund? Since you bought in Baron Adrian's name, he must come in person to return it. Fine. Big Nose shrank his neck and lurched out with the guards, arms full of a stack of instant spells, cursing under his breath. Damned stick in the mud. If Adrian finds out, I'll be skinned. Better go consult Lance. You dog, daring to push me around. Brothers, cut him down for me. A hysterical roar erupted from the crowd, screams everywhere. Big Nose, loading his cart, even perked up at the shout. Someone worse off than himself. How delightful. The next moment, 12 or 13 vagrants in rags, rusty knives in hand, pounced and surrounded him, his guards, and his hired hands. Only then did he understand. The instant he bought the church goods, Field had had his guards hire these desperados. A textbook sinister noble's move. Killing a commoner was all too easy for a noble. Those thugs mightn't even be punished much. A little gold smoothing it over, and they'd be out before long. After all, the dead provide no gold, the living do. Lance, I hate you. Big Nose died with his eyes open. The street descended into chaos. The corner of my mouth lifted. I nodded at Hammer. Hammer and the others, swaggering behind their armor, shoved into the crowd and led off the horses hauling Big Nose goods. Lance's eyes went round in disbelief. Everything had been according to plan, so how had it suddenly come to this? Bad, the goods, the money. Cold sweat ran down his back. He'd misappropriated no small sum, and now Field had seized it all. Once Adrian learned, he'd be skinned alive. I only meant to toy with him a little. This is fair commercial competition. How could he use such despicable means? Amid the churning crowd, he spotted me on the steps. Having fun, I mouthed, and drew a finger across my throat twice, then turned smartly and walked off. Come, forget the supplies for now. Let's go outside the city and have someone watch Kiki's movements. I stretched luxuriously, exultant inside. Another near 2,000 gold made today in blood. Truly, once you throw off the shackles of worldly morality, gold pours in like a tide. The imagined business war is commercial elites dueling with wits. The real business war is using a little money to solve the problem at the physical level outright. My lord, that pockface spent 8 gold in all. I swear by the goddess I did everything as you instructed and never once mentioned your name. A guard handed over the leftover money with a fawning smile. Well done. I rewarded him 2 silver coins. The other guards burned with envy. Just running a message earned 2 silver. From now on, they'd be sure to make themselves seen before the Baron. The next day, Maple City's border. Kiki's caravan rolled along briskly, the carts laden with valuable goods. The extraordinary knight Gareth seated on a fine northern racing horse. So many cheap potions, Baron Adrian's filthy rich. Gareth's eyes burned with envy. If I had a crate of cheap potions, I could easily make 3rd rank. He'd been stuck at the peak of 2nd rank for 2 years. With little war these recent years, he'd had no chance to make big money and could only guard caravans. Wretch! A curse burst suddenly from inside the carriage, startling Gareth, who relaxed only after confirming Kiki hadn't come out, thinking his muttering had been overheard. Kiki's face was livid. Why did you provoke the Baron? Then why must we leave Maple City at once? Lance was unconvinced. Because this is Baron Simon's turf. You want to go toy with Simon too? Sorry, father, but we should report and have Field arrested by Simon. Lance fumed. He killed Big Nose. I saw it with my own eyes and can testify. Don't mention Big Nose. To a noble, what's the difference between 1 dead commoner and 1 dead rat? And, fool, do you know the penalty for falsely accusing a noble? The whole continent would have no place for us. And even if it's not a false accusation, a noble will automatically treat it as one. Kiki sucked in a cold breath and clutched his head. I never imagined you were this stupid. A life of pampered ease has made you arrogant, even seeing yourself as part of the noble class. Nobles are best at closing ranks. They feud to the death in normal times. Yet faced with an attack from the lowborn, they unite with astonishing speed, and only after pounding the lowborn flat with warhorses and lances do they greedily resume carving each other up. Class decides it. If Field could be toppled by the lowborn, the authority of other nobles would instantly suffer too. and a second and third noble would soon be brought down by the lowborn. So when a noble's in trouble, nobles truly help. That was why, when I had nothing, no slave or servant dared mock me, the steward grumbling at most. Kiki seemed to age 30 years, lording it over servants, respected by merchants. Yet one word from Baron Adrian, and I'd hang that very day. You too, go actually expose Field and Simon kills you first, then sits down with Adrian and Field to talk profit. Lance went cold all over. Then what do we do? First, back to Fulon City. Tell the Baron Field isn't dead, and he'll deal with him. As for the 2,000 gold hole, whether to doctor the ledgers or claim Field's men robbed us, I'll have to think it over carefully. Robbed? Field couldn't possibly have the means to rob us, and Sir Gareth wouldn't bear false witness for us. Lance still wouldn't have it. If you hadn't sworn it on the goddess, I'd have kept thinking Field a coward, never expected he could kill too. You were too stupid, too clever by half, toying with him. Rumble, rumble, what's that sound? Before the two could even lean out of the carriage, the extraordinary knight Gareth said, "Some bandits mean to rob our Fulon City caravan. Don't they know their place? Don't they know I'm here?" Kiki stepped out and saw, on the caravan's right flank, 20 middle-armored cavalry in black cloaks roaming with charge lances, glints of scale and lamellar flashing now and then from beneath the black, cold and malign and steeped in killing intent. "You call these bandits?" Kiki nearly cursed reflexively, but seeing Gareth's nonchalant face relaxed at once. With a second-rank battle-chi knight here, no need to worry. To extraordinary power, ordinary cavalry really were bandits who died at a touch. A first-rank knight could solo 5 ordinary heavy cavalry. A second rank should handle 20, especially with the knight's squires, the caravan guards, and the workers with crossbows to hold a while. Kiki's nerves settled. Halt, protect the goods, prepare to fight. The caravan folk, badly frightened, fumbled out their weapons. "Haven't had a scrap in ages. My hands have been itching." Gareth dug in his heels and charged. "Come, I hope you last a while." The squires followed. Aroo, just as battle was joined, a terrible wolf howl rang out, and Gareth felt the warhorse beneath him buck hard, its charge suddenly slowing. He felt a powerful, cold, malign aura. In 3 breaths, a great wolf climbed a rise and looked down with a sovereign's bearing. Dense, heavy black scales all over it, its savage eyes chilling the caravan to the bone. Ashna sat the wolf, wrapped in a black cloak. Now wasn't the time to reveal her identity, but her appearance plunged Gareth into terror, for his battle-chi was trembling. The rank of the chosen before him didn't matter. A first-rank chosen, so long as she was the combat type, could absolutely overlevel kill a third-rank battle-chi knight. A chosen, how the hell? Though every cell urged him to flee, chivalry forbade it, and a single flight would cut his worth. He roared, "Kiki, you fool, get the caravan moving. I can only buy time." For glory, Gareth raised his lance and spurred his horse, his 5 squires gritting their teeth and following. A dignified chosen, stooping to join a raid? Gareth's roar carried potent battle-chi, painful to the eardrums. Swear fealty to Baron Adrian and money, servants, resources are all yours for the taking. He hoped to shame the chosen into leaving, but Ashna hadn't the slightest interest in answering, the dragon wolf lowering its body slightly like a drawn bowstring. Knowing she had no wish to talk, Gareth thrust first. Roar! The dragon wolf abruptly spewed a scorching pillar of fire, withering the ground around it to cracked earth. Alarm bells blaring, Gareth poured white battle-chi from his palm to sheath his lance and slammed it into the fire pillar with a boom. The flames scattering, his face paled, his innards quaking. So this is a battle-chi knight's power? Strong. Ashna's wolf ears twitched, finding her first clash with a battle-chi knight novel. Suddenly her red eyes contracted, and she had the wolf dodge casually. Clumsy as the dragon wolf looked, it vanished from the spot in a blink. In that instant Gareth, wrapped in white battle-chi, flashed in like a bullet train. 1,000 stone force gathered at his lance tip and slammed it into where Ashna had been, blasting out a great crater. Curse it, she dodged it. While the 2 top fighters dueled, the raiding cavalry captain Silverclaw glanced at me watching from afar, raised his lance. Charge. Leave no resistor alive. Kill. Kill. These cavalry, short on training and skill, won out on having survived many corpse tides and feared no enemy. However terrible, none was as terrible as a twisted corpse. 20 riders mustered the momentum of 200. Kiki, who'd traded for House Ross for years and seen countless fierce bandits, had never once seen a chosen personally leading full-armored cavalry into a raid, and panicked. Could it be Baron Maple raiding us with troops? I always heard he's greed incarnate. Loose, the hastily mustered able-bodied threw a thin volley of arrows. Unlike the light armor paper-thin of films and dramas, full-armored soldiers' defense against arrows was terrifyingly strong. And after a clatter, the vast majority rode on as if nothing had happened, undiminished in speed, only one unlucky soul taking a bolt to the shin and toppling from his horse. Before a second bolt could be loaded, the 100 meters closed in a blink, and the cavalry, carrying their momentum, drove into the caravan, skewering the able-bodied at the front and stamping them to pulp. Run. Only then did the able-bodied realize Kiki had thrown them under. They were mere goods haulers earning bread money. How had they become flesh shields? Kiki had meant to use cannon fodder to blunt the charge, and soon regretted it. Morale collapses in an instant. The able-bodied broke at a touch, flung down their arms and scattered, throwing their own guards into disorder. Wolf demihumans are born cavalry, and seeing the enemy in chaos, they slashed away face-on, striking from above, killing with a careless wave. The fallen needed no finishing blow, stamped at once into the dirt by hooves. Hacking, wailing, screaming, everyone unleashing the animal nature within. After his brief clash with Ashna, Gareth heard the screams of his comrades behind him, and seeing the black-cloaked masked figure before him so blithely composed, his fury blazed. He mustered his momentum for a frenzied assault, his squires attacking from all sides. Tiresome, back to the goddess's embrace with you. Ashna was bored. A second-rank battle-chi knight, special techniques and all, was just too weak. In the howling wind she advanced rather than retreating, her spear thrusting out at a horrifying density, spear-light like a galaxy. Normally, she had the dragon wolf attack because it excelled at area damage and cleared corpses fast. As a chosen, her personal combat power was the strongest. Bad. Gareth saw nothing but countless points of starlight, and by the time he realized they were spear flashes, gouts of blood had already sprayed forth. So fast, so this is a god's power. His squires fell from their horses dead as one. Gareth, pierced by over a dozen spear thrusts, drifted lightly off his mount and was bitten by the dragon wolf, which tore open his armor and devoured him. To it, a battle-chi-bearing human was a tonic. Greyhound huddled in an overturned cart, raking cabbages over himself. Dear goddess, this is terrifying. Please don't let them find me. I'll offer up everything. Squelch. The last guard fell into a pool of blood. The whole caravan had few survivors left, only coarse-clad workers and a few serving girls. Stop. I rode over and called off the blood-mad cavalry. They were a sight, gleaming armor stained red with foul blood, the chilling reek of slaughter radiating off them. A soldier who'd seen blood and one who hadn't were utterly different states. Tallying losses: 3 wounded, 2 thrown from horses by poor riding, more seriously hurt, none killed. Every man in fine armor that ordinary weapons could scarcely pierce. No wonder hoarding armor was a capital crime in olden days. I nodded to the men. A silver per head. Well done. Wounded. Rest well. I'll cover medicine and food. We'd gotten plenty of potions raiding Cashion Fortress. Long live the Lord. Next, the tally of spoils. I'm Baron Fulon's economic advisor. Don't kill me. Shut up. Silverclaw grabbed one in each hand and dragged Kiki and his son before me like dead dogs. I too wore a black cloak. A noble's honor outweighs heaven, and being seen raiding would make future business very hard. We meet again. I bared a dangerous smile. It's you, Field. The two froze, faces stiff. Tell me about my brother, his military strength, defensive deployments, and chosen. Kiki shrank back in terror. What do you want? Didn't he say he'd kill me and the one I love? I laced my fingers, speaking horrors unhurriedly. And I happen to be a man who likes an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. You bastard. He's your brother. You both carry House Ross's blood. Slap, slap. Silverclaw struck him hard twice. Show respect. Funny. He may kill me, but I mayn't kill him. Before you make an enemy of me, you'd best be ready to be killed. I waved a hand. Talking tough is useless now. I've ample means to pry your mouths open. I'll talk. Lance cried. Adrian had 1 4th-rank knight, 12 3rd-rank knights, 500 other troops, and in wartime could conscript 3,000 militia. Quite formidable. Most importantly, he had a 2nd-rank chosen, Allison, styled the Flame Spirit Butterfly, a fast caster who commanded an extraordinary mage corps, fearsomely strong. Of course, Adrian could only command 1/10 of that force for the time being. The knights served the old count. A freshly arrived new lord couldn't control them. Resigned to ruin, the two spilled every secret. I nodded. My brother was strong. No beating him now. First back to nightfall to till the fields. I forgive you. I wheeled my horse and made a throat-cutting gesture to Silverclaw. Kiki and his son had just risen to flee when they were kicked down, and several steel sabers came down without mercy. I curse you to hell. I forgive you, but I never said my men do. I shrugged. Oh, and don't forget to cut off the heads and make sure they're dead. This scene left Greyhound and the others dumbstruck. Damn it. What crossed wire made me want to leave Maple City? Greyhound despaired, wishing he could slap himself twice. But the imagined butcher's blade didn't fall. From horseback, I said, "You've been conscripted. Anyone with skills, stand on the right." Also, who's Greyhound? Nearly everyone scrambled to the right, even those who could do nothing. Conscripted? Skills. Greyhound blanked, then was wild with joy. Did this mean he wouldn't die? I'm Greyhound, my lord. Whatever you command, I'll do anything. He sprang out and knelt before me. I'm the Lord of Nightfall. I hear your carpentry is excellent. Perform to my satisfaction, and life will be far better than in Maple City. The same goes for the rest of you. I pointed to the remaining 7, 3 of them Kiki's serving girls. The old geezer had more maids than I did. No shame in his dying, and took them all in. The cavalry had already begun sorting the spoils. Silverclaw opened a fine large wooden crate, the rows of neatly arrayed crystal vials nearly blinding him. My lord, you really must see this. So many potions. I strode up, and seasoned as I was, I couldn't keep a straight face, laughing aloud. Those aren't potions, they're chi potions. Maple City's specialty battle chi potion. Chi potions. Seeing me pleased, Ashna brightened too. Picking up a vial and giving it a swirl, the brown-red liquid sloshing, and a sudden suspicion crossed her face. This isn't some strange thing, is it? Mustn't let the Lord touch another strange thing, like that evil plant last time that had wrung him out. To cultivate battle chi, you have to take this. Like Gareth earlier. To become an extraordinary knight, you first drink an awakening potion, then cultivate with chi potions. And chi potions are dear, often over 50 gold a vial, hard even for a knight to bear. This is why the strong grow richer with rank, and richer means more chi potions, and more chi potions means stronger. The gap between the extraordinary widens fast. Chi potions, though, are useless to a chosen, at most a tonic to drink like a beverage, and useless to me personally too. I'm long past the age to awaken battle chi. Let's see the other goods. I rubbed my hands in anticipation, as fun as opening a blind box. After half an hour clearing the battlefield, I'd gained 2 crates of chi potions, 60 vials in all, 327 gold in cash, the 2nd-rank battle chi knight's armor and gear, a cartload of silk, a crate of healing potions, 12 pack horses, and sundry items besides, an estimated 5,000 gold all told. We're all family. What's his is mine. I plundered the entire caravan without a qualm. No one gets rich without a windfall. Idly taking the freshly trained cavalry out on a single raid matched the vintage wine hauled out at great risk. As for how my brother would react, I couldn't care less. Sorted out, everyone returned to the coaching inn outside the city, where Tate was already waiting. I thought you'd changed your mind. Tate let out a long breath. He'd sold his house and couldn't settle until he saw me, then ventured a rare joke. I half thought I'd get to pocket that 1 gold coin. I laughed. Then you'd have missed 10,000. His family climbed down from the donkey cart and bowed. A turbaned old woman with long buck teeth, plainly his mother, a wife of ordinary looks, and a daughter, exceedingly pretty, snow-white skin, in a blue dress. I nodded and smiled to each. Let's go buy supplies. The slaves I buy shortly will go straight under your management, and I trust you won't disappoint me." Tate felt uncertain, but with no way back, declared loudly, "Leave it to me, my lord. Thanks to my brother's funding, I'd save the cost of fog-dispelling lamps and purification potions, so I bought 300 slaves outright, 200 men. Maple City had no taste for war, and slaves were scarce, mostly the old and weak. The rest of the goods centered on the all-important grain and fodder, enough to feed the territory 3 months, plus 5 cattle, 20 sheep, 2 war horses, 25 pack horses, and assorted noble furniture and clothing. 1,970 gold in all, the bulk of it on livestock. This being an age where beasts cost more than people. I also bought 3 carrier pigeons. To my relief, Tate showed his management skill. He split the slaves into able-bodied men and the women, old and weak, in 2 groups bearing different loads, greatly raising hauling capacity and slimming down the column. Looks like the wages weren't wasted, I thought to myself. Everyone set off that day, resting a night on reaching High Castle Province's border. Early the next morning, stepping out of my tent, I was surprised to find church people there too. A 30-man holy armor night order, every man radiating battle chi, and 20 nuns in strict, plain robes, even their ears covered. The slaves knelt before them, the nuns preaching ceaselessly. Unlike ordinary religions that exhort folk to do good and collect incense money, this world's church could not only tax kings, but excommunicate them, launch divine punishment armies against heretics, and held in the rich southern inland sea a nation of 3 provinces. Nominally, of the 100-odd nations great and small, the Holy Griffin Empire included, the official faith was all the church's goddess of holy light, also called the mother of all gods. Whether she's actually anyone's mother, no one knows, since no one has truly seen a god. The only miracle is the chosen, and the rest can all be fabricated, and I myself spin tales off the cuff with zero guilt. "Sorry, we didn't mean to disturb your rest," a nun explained with tact. "All right, that explanation I can accept." I shrugged. "Wait, are you Sir Field Ross?" A white-robed nun stared at me in shock. "Heavens, you truly survived nightfall? Thank the goddess of holy light. This must be a miracle." I feigned confusion. "You know me? All things are miracles." A gentle, lovely voice came from behind the nuns, who at once parted and stood aside respectfully. The speaker too wore white, the luminous angel sigil on her forehead marking her a chosen of holy light, no less. "I am Eliza, the church's 3rd-rank chosen. Passing through Rose territory, we heard you were going to open up Nightfall, and even prayed for you." A 3rd-rank chosen. Her combat power was already terrifying, no exaggeration to call her an army of 1. I instinctively worried she'd expose Ashna, but Eliza didn't so much as glance at her. It seemed chosen could mutually mask one another. I'd noticed before that the mini-map wouldn't display a chosen already under contract. Even if Ashna didn't hide her aura, I couldn't find a marker for her. Before being contracted, the mini-map marks the position. After, it vanishes. No wonder my luck holds. It's because a beautiful nun prayed for me. I bantered with my eyes shut. I'd never gotten the slightest help from the church, and Ashna wasn't a holy light chosen, but a demi-human's winter chosen. I stepped forward with a decorous smile. "You sought out my pioneering party specially to preach." "Not only that, honored Baron Field, we wish to cooperate with you." Eliza pressed her hands together. "Do explain. Our purpose has always been salvation and purification. You're isolated and helpless in Nightfall, ever facing the threat of the dead, and your subjects are lost lambs. The church could build a chapel in Nightfall and station a church warrior garrison there to share your defensive burden." Eliza used a highly persuasive tone, but the more I heard, the stranger it sounded, and if not for my facial control, my brow would have knotted into a pretzel. "Isn't that just a garrison? Easy to invite a god in, hard to send it away. Plant a great 3rd-rank chosen like you in my territory, and the territory would take your name in an instant. Besides, when I first went to Nightfall, I got not a whit of church support. Now that I'd seized a corner of it, the church came sniffing, shameless. Apologies, but I must decline. The truth is we haven't even found our footing. If you wish to help, gold and fog-dispelling lamps will do, and my subjects and I will pray nightly and praise the goddess's grace. If that's how it is, then another time." Eliza looked aggrieved. By the way, Sister Eliza, where are you headed? Perhaps we could travel a stretch together. You could ride a cart. I made the shameless offer. If they were willing, I'd lead them into the corpse piles to mooch their chosen combat power for free and clear out all the corpse fiends massed in Nightfall. Though if they wanted to come to my camp, no deal. Eliza saw through my scheme at a glance and refused at once. No need to travel together. Purifying monsters is the goddess's trial and our ascetic practice. Thank you for the kindness. I pouted. What a pity. Did you come to the north only to destroy monsters? Partly, but mainly to recover lost divine artifacts. She traced a strange sign over her chest, her gaze sorrowful. To resist the Beastman invasion and save the corrupted, the church has sent armies and chosen many times, and no few sisters fell in the north. As the gods' envoys, we must reclaim their divine artifacts and not let them fall into filth. When a chosen dies, her soul and divine power remain in her weapon, forming a divine artifact, but the artifact degrades over time, finally crumbling to a handful of yellow sand. Our destination doesn't pass through Nightfall. Your kindness we humbly decline. How many divine artifacts are in the north? Are there any in Nightfall? My eyes lit up, and noticing her sour expression, I switched to a compassionate tone. Oh, I mean, perhaps I could help you search and trade more fog-dispelling lamps and purification potions for any we find. Thank you, but I can grant neither of your two requests. Divine artifacts belong to the god of holy light, and fog-dispelling lamps and purification potions aren't mass-produced. They use a holy light chosen's power, and output is small. So, do you have the coordinates of the Empire's divine artifacts? Are there any in Nightfall? I don't know, Barren Field, and I still hope to build a chapel in Nightfall. Eliza found me hard to handle too, and gripped my arm to keep persuading. There'll come such a day. Once my pioneering party has its footing and can barely feed itself, I'll be sure to notify you. I mercilessly painted her a pie she could see but never eat. Refused too hard, and I worried about being killed. Though the odds were near zero, the church's influence had waned in recent years, the great empire's all straining to shed its control, and if it struck at a noble, it would likely be finished at once. The two of us talked a good while, and reached not the slightest consensus. Pick 50 strong slaves and arm them with spears. We're entering the gray fog. I gave the loud order, swung back onto my horse, and bowed to Eliza. Farewell, charming sister. Farewell, may holy light shelter you. Eliza vaulted lightly onto her horse. The return to Nightfall was no easy thing. Counting slaves and captives, about 350 people, meaning a very high chance of meeting a corpse tide. And so it went. The moment we entered the north, the bloated transport column came under unending attack, rotting corpses roaring up out of ruins, corrupted forests, and the earth itself, charging in their hideousness. Goddess, what am I seeing? Living devils. Tate panicked like the slaves, turning to find a way back, only to see unbroken gray fog. Tate had a faint feeling. He'd been had. He'd heard before that the north was full of monsters and death and made nothing of it. An abstract notion is nothing besides seeing it with one's own eyes. But Tate shut up at once, not out of strong nerves. Shing. The Black Knights around me drew their cavalry sabers as one, and more terrifying still, the blades weren't gleaming but caked with red-brown dried blood and yellow-white grease. No more than 2 days old. From his years of managing death row prisoners, Tate saw it at a glance. Those blades had just finished cutting down people, and wouldn't mind cutting down a bit more. Slaves, no panicking, no running. Tate dared not be the one to stick his neck out, soothing the slaves while casting an anxious glance at his family's cart.